Dear Lord, bless this council and give us the wisdom to discharge our duties with fairness and dedication. May we make decisions which reflect the needs of the people we represent, so that the outcomes make a real difference to the quality of their daily lives. Amen.
Amen. Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Before we start, please can I remind members, and we have quite a packed public gallery as well, if you would follow suit, that would be much appreciated, to switch off their mobile phones and mute any devices. We normally get a bit of an orchestra of computers pinging. Please make sure your computers are muted also. As I've said, welcome to this meeting of the council. Please, as ever, remember not to hold the microphone by the stem, as I'm told they're very expensive to repair. For the benefit of those watching the live stream, please use your microphone every time you speak, including when participating in a recorded vote. Otherwise, your voice will not be heard. You may find it easier to be seated whilst using your microphone. I propose to take a 20-minute break at approximately 12:30, should we still be going, to allow those of you that wish to take refreshment to do so. Obviously, that may vary depending on where we are on an agenda item. There is going to be a charity cake sale out in the foyer, so please spend massively if you can. We'll move on to the agenda. Item 1 is apologies. Chief Executive.
Apologies have been received from the following councillors: Jeff Anderson, Julia Buckley, Julia Evans, Mike Isherwood, Alan Mosley, Kevin Pardy. Thank you.
Are there any others? Nope. Okay. We'll move on to item 2 then, which is disclosable pecuniary or disposable interests. They may or may not be of pecuniary nature. I would remind members to disclose any pecuniary and other registrable or non-registrable interest in any matter to be discussed, including an interest in their register of interests, and leave the chamber prior to that being discussed. Ruth. Councillor Howland.
Personal interest in the the portfolio report for children of have a family member with an educational health and care plan. Thank you.
Okay. I think Joyce struggled to hear what you said then. Don't worry about saying it again. I think perhaps if you move your microphone a little bit closer if you speak, and I'll do the same now, just to give an example of where it should be beautifully placed. Okay, item 3 then is the minutes, and I move that the minutes of the previous council meeting held on the 26th of September 2024, as circulated with the agenda papers, be signed as a correct record.
I second those minutes.
Okay, I'm looking round. I can't see anybody wishing to say that they're not correct, so I'm assuming everybody is happy with those. We'll move on to item 4 then, which is announcements. Obviously, you've had that emailed out to you. I move on to item 5, which is public questions. And in accordance with Procedure Rule 14, we'll now deal with questions from the member of the public. In accordance with the revised procedural rules, the Assistant Director of Legal and Governance will read out public questions received from members of the public who are not present. The relevant portfolio holder will respond to the questions. So we will start then. We have 6 that have been received, and the first one is from Hugh Edwards. Okay, Mr. Edwards. If you just wait for a minute, it's because we do want members of the public to hear. We will get you one that works.
Jolly good, that should be better. Thank you, Tim. I ask this question on behalf of a resident as an elected parish council official. Despite the fact that an officer of Shropshire Council states that, and I quote, Whilst the interventions of local members and town councillors may be well intentioned, they are, I'd suggest, unhelpful and indeed counterproductive. End of quotes. This attitude is unprofessional at best. Speaking truth to power may be uncomfortable, but it is absolutely necessary. Shropshire Council have statutory rights to enforce Section 143 notices under the Highways Act 1980, as this allows Shropshire Council to be the prosecution, judge and jury. Please explain the steps followed to ensure that these are only ever properly and legally applied, especially as there is no right of appeal. Without strict adherence to formal process and legal standards, these notices are a breach of human rights, democracy and natural justice. If such a notice was issued to a resident who is deemed to obstruct a highway, citing evidences which cannot define a boundary, please explain how this can be justified under the terms of your own policy on better regulation and enforcement, particularly in terms of accountability, transparency, proportionality and consistency. The resident has provided copies of the correct legal documents and qualified professional opinion that confirms the resident's boundary is correct. Yet Shropshire Council refused to accept their validity and require further legal advice on a fundamental aspect of property law which should have been reviewed prior to serving the Section 143 notice. What will Shropshire Council do to resolve this issue?
Thank you very much. And I believe Councillor Dan Morris is going to provide the answer.
Thank you for the question. Councillor Dan Morris, Portfolio Holder Highways. Shropshire Council has served notice under the provisions of the Highways Act 1980 to preserve the rights of highway users to unobstructed access to the highway, as is its duty. This is a legitimate and acceptable action enshrined in statute. So far, the adjacent owners have been unable to provide original and pertinent evidence to counter the council's records and its opinion that the boundary fence obstructs the highway. The council has made numerous offers to meet on site and examine any documentation that might exist and as it relates to the actual site conditions, but to date, the residents have not yet accepted this offer. The council's offer to meet remains open and is one encouraged to help resolve the outstanding issues in this matter.
Good. Thank you very much. The next question is from Julia Jones, and Tim, I believe you are going to read this.
Yes, thank you. So Julia's question is this. Hunting with dogs was banned in England and Wales nearly 20 years ago. Despite this, it is still commonplace across Shropshire and the country as a whole under the guise of trail hunting. Trail hunting is now widely recognised as a cover for illegal hunting, with organisations such as Natural Resources Wales, the National Trust, the Malvern Hills Trust banning it in recent years. It has been banned in Scotland, and the UK government has recognised in its manifesto the need to end it in England and Wales too. Senior police officers, such as Temporary Acting Deputy Chief Constable Matt Longman, the National Police Chiefs Council lead on fox hunting crime, have also recognised the widespread misuse of trail hunting. Longman has described illegal hunting as prolific and trail hunting as a smokescreen. Senior police officers have also extensively discussed the weaknesses of the current law and the difficulties that presents to proper enforcement of the law. While we wait for action from the government to strengthen the legislation, landowners, especially public landowners, hold a responsibility to ensure that their land is not being misused for illegal fox, stag and hare hunting. What is Shropshire Council doing to prevent the use of its land for illegal hunting, including trail hunting, which is illegal hunting by deception?
Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Julia Jones, for the question. And once again, I'm going to turn to the relevant portfolio holder, Councillor Dan Morris.
I think you'll find it's Councillor Carroll, Chairman.
Councillor
Carroll.
All right.
In terms of any land holdings the council directly owns and manages, any such illegal use is already prohibited. There are no specific provisions around the prohibition of trail hunting in any of the tenancies for the council's remaining small holding estate, where it's likely any activity like this would take place. It's not possible to unilaterally incorporate new provisions into leases unless required by law.
Thank you. We will move on to the next question, which is from a Mr. Paul Cawthorne. Are you here, Mr. Cawthorne? Oh, okay.
Read it out.
Tim, if you wouldn't mind reading it out, we would be grateful. Thank you.
Yep. The question is this. Many of my questions to the council in the past about the viability of the proposed Shrewsbury Northwest Road proposal seem to have been treated rather dismissively without full consideration of the underlying prudence, as have the protests of hundreds of locals sceptical of the wisdom of continued spending on the controversial and insecure Northwest Road proposal. Now the council's external auditor has confirmed that the current cost of building the road is £178 million, more than double the original, and that funding has not been secured. But our greatest present concern is that there seems to be no plan to deal with the road's cancellation, which seems scandalous given the lack of funding and the many millions of pounds that have already been spent. What has been called the gross mismanagement of the Northwest Road project could bankrupt the council, according to an experienced local politician. Members of the public, whether they supported or opposed the relief road, will now be demanding some accountability given cutbacks to support services for vulnerable local people that have happened while spending on this road project has continued. Therefore, will the portfolio holder for highways, Councillor Dan Morris, and the chairman of the audit committee, Councillor Brian Williams, resign?
Thank you very much for the question, and I will this time correctly go to Councillor Dan Morris.
Thank you for the question. In our opinion, we do not believe that your previous questions around this project have been treated dismissively, and we do not recognise your allegations. I can confirm that neither myself nor the chairman of the audit committee have any intention of resigning.
Thank you. So the next question is from Susan Wedlock, and Tim, I believe you are slated to read this one as well. Tim.
Thank you. The question is this. On Boxing Day, the Ludlow Hunt is planning to meet publicly in the town square, Ludlow. The event is advertised locally and nationally. During the meet, the hunt will block the public highway and public access routes. Shropshire Council has asked them to apply for a road closure. However, they have not applied, and now they compromise public safety due to missing deadlines for closures. The hunt occupies the square, again without permission, and the only place the spectators can stand is in the road, as the pavements are too narrow. If the spectators block the road without a road closure, the event will be unsafe for everyone. Not everyone in the vicinity will be aware of the event or potential risks. There will be no traffic management plan, no access for emergency vehicles, and no scrutiny of health and safety measures. Please confirm that Shropshire Council will apply the same standards to the Boxing Day event as they do to every other organisation who stage public events on highway. Additionally, there is a dog control order for Shropshire with no exemption for hounds. Please also confirm that hounds will not be allowed to roam without a lead, that any feces left by a dog owned by the hunt and not cleared up will be subject to a fine, like everyone else. Can you confirm you will not permit them to meet in the town without a road closure and adequate control measures?
Thank you, Tim. I believe this one is for you, Dan.
Thank you for the question. We recognise that in order to manage this event appropriately from a highways perspective, a road closure will be required. We have been liaising with the event organisers, and the temporary restrictions for the Ludlow Hunt gathering on Boxing Day have been included on the Town Police Clauses Act 1847, temporary regulation order for this year's December events. This is visible on the One Network mapping, showing the extent and locations of restrictions. In terms of dog control, the PSOP was introduced to provide Shropshire Council with the powers under Section 59 Antisocial Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act 2014. The activities to which this order relate are dog fouling and subsequent removal of dog faeces, and the walking of dogs in specified areas of Shropshire. This is an organised event with the use of working dogs, and the organisers have advised that they will clean up after themselves, as has been the case in previous years.
Okay, thank you very much. So we now have the next question, which is from Mike Streetley, and once again, Tim.
Thank you. His question is this. Could the portfolio holder for transport please explain why WSP have used a different methodology for assessing the carbon impacts of the North West Relief Road when reporting this to the local planning authority for the purposes of complying with planning condition 41, compared to what the Department for Transport has specified in its latest guidance, February 2024. The method used for the reports to the local planning authority yields user emissions of the proposed new road are around 80% lower than the new DFT guidance. Does this signify that the North West Relief Road team feel that the local planning authority doesn't need to be told that the latest and presumably most accurate methodology yields much higher emissions?
Thank you, Tim. And once again, Councillor Dan Morris, the portfolio holder for highways.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the question. I can clarify that on the matter of carbon reporting, the North West Relief Road has revised its carbon assessment in line with the latest DFT guidance, and this has already been submitted to the LPA and subsequently published. The project at all times looks to use the latest and most credible methodology when assessing its impacts and also its benefits. It is understood this amendment to the carbon assessment will now be considered by the Northern Planning Committee as part of their oversight and consideration in issuing full planning permission. And the revised carbon impact assessment will be fully addressed by the project under the provisions of Condition 41.
Okay, just before we move on to the next question, I keep hearing lots and lots of computers joining together in some sort of electronic symphonium. As I said at the beginning of the meeting, please put them on mute. It is very off-putting for members or members of the public or portfolio holders or whoever's speaking to hear them keep interrupting. Thank you. So the next question is from Jamie Russell, and once again, Tim Collard is going to read it. Tim.
Thank you. In a recent interview with BBC Shropshire, Councillor Dan Morris claimed that the council plans to use £136 million of local transport funding to pay for the funding shortfall of the North West Relief Road. When Shropshire's share of the LTF was announced in February, Councillor Ian Nelling said, "We're awaiting details of how the funding can be spent, but first indications are that it will offer the opportunity to improve the county's roads, bus and rail services and transport infrastructure, which is great news for the county." At the same time, then Roads Minister Guy Opperman visited the village of Lee Botwood in South Shropshire with Councillor Morris. The Minister explained to the Shropshire Star that it would be up to the local council working alongside MPs to decide how to spend the money. He explained it could be on anything from pothole fixing to pedestrian crossings, and said it was not for any other part of the local authority budgeting, therefore explicitly adding that it couldn't be diverted into the North West Relief Road. Could Councillor Morris please explain, 1, what has changed since February that makes him think the LTF can now be used for the North West Relief Road? And 2, what the impact on the revenue budget would be if the North West Relief Road is built using LTF money, given that the LTF award is only £20 million per annum from 2025 to 2032, meaning the council would need to borrow to fund the road.
Very much. And once again, Councillor Dan Morris.
Popular today. In response to the first part of the question, the new LTF was announced by government on the 4th of October 2023. Authorities were told the following. This funding is additional to the integrated transport block allocation that LTAs currently receive. The additional LTF funding has been allocated by formula based on the population and the levelling up need of each LTA. LTF will fund a wide range of transport measures. Local transport authorities will be able to choose from a range of projects such as building new roads, improving road junctions and pavements, improving bus stations, installing or expanding tram lines or improving train stations. The government announced the breakdown of the LTF funding by local authority on the 26th of February 24 and Shropshire Council's allocation was 136.443 million. The LTF funding award letter was sent to Shropshire Council dated the 1st of March 24, stating in writing, this is a historic level of funding for these councils. The new funds can pay for the infrastructure that communities really want, from new roads to mass transit schemes, systems, more EV charge points or refurbished bus and train stations to filling potholes. In response to the second part of the question, there is no direct impact on the council's revenue budget. If the North West Relief Road spending created a cash flow implication, this would be managed as part of the council's Treasury management process in line with the Treasury strategy, capital strategy and medium-term financial strategy, all approved by council annually.
Thank you. So we will move on to item 6, which is questions from members. We do have 6 questions, which are allowed in accordance with Procedure Rule 15. Before I move into those, you will have noted that there is one extra question that has been put in as emergency question, and I have allowed that as well. So we will actually be hearing 7. That doesn't mean to say that you're going to get 7 every meeting. Okay. So the first question is from Councillor Kevin Pardee, who I believe is not here. He's suffered an accident and is really not very well. So Councillor Rosemary Dartwell is going to read it on his behalf. Rosemary.
Thank you, Chair. On the 14th of October, Shropshire Council announced the delay of 11 scheduled and much needed road resurfacing projects across the county, citing the council's financial crisis and the need to save money as the reason for the delay. The delay of resurfacing was to help the council make savings. See Shropshire Council Newsroom, 14th of the 10th. In number, the council projects amount to 25% of the planned resurfacing for the current year. The portfolio holder made a statement linking the council projects to Shropshire Council's financial crisis, in which £62.5 million revenue savings are required in the current financial year. However, road resurfacing is funded by government, allocated to highways authorities such as Shropshire, based on the mileage of A and B class roads within each council's geography. Please explain how delaying these projects helps Shropshire Council manage its financial crisis and why the allocated budget appears to be overspent to what seems to be a very substantial degree.
Thank you. So once again, Councillor Dan Morris.
Thanks for the question, Rosemary. The council has to work within its budget envelope, and that applies equally to both capital and revenue budgets. The prolonged wet winter of 2023 had a significant impact on the network, and with a significant increase in defect numbers, it was clear that addressing a significant backlog without additional funding would not be achievable. The revenue costs associated with borrowing capital was prohibitive due to the interest payments. Therefore, the existing highways budget had to be reprofiled, and resurfacing schemes have been delayed until the new financial scheme in order to help us fund defect repairs and other critical maintenance throughout the winter period.
Thank you. Councillor Dartnell, do you have a supplementary question?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I think the next question actually is from you, Rosemary. So you could have left your thing on.
Yeah, thank you. Could have saved the energy. Staff or agency, there's a question about staff or agency staff. It's about people working for Shropshire Council, comparing directly employed staff and those indirectly employed through agencies. It's also about how recruitment is managed by the council. So questions are, please describe briefly the HR department's involvement in all aspects of recruitment, whether third-party recruitment agencies are used to provide any elements of the process. How many people by directorate are working on behalf of the council? How many of those people are directly employed by the council? How many are employed indirectly via agencies? How do the terms of employment differ between agency and directly employed staff? And what is the differential cost between directly and indirectly employed staff, including on costs?
Thank you. And for I wouldn't say welcome change, but just for a change, we've got a different portfolio holder to answer this one. Councillor Gwilym Butler as the portfolio holder for Finance, Corporate Support and Communities. Gwilym.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's Councillor Gwilym Butler, portfolio holder for Finance, Corporate Resources and Communities. Thank you for the question, Rosemary. I'm actually going to read out a summary of the council's response to this question, because the actual response is very, very long. We'll probably be here for a couple of hours if I read it all out, but it will be on the website following the finish of this meeting. In summary, the HR department's role in recruitment. The HR department manages recruitment by processing forms, publishing job ads, conducting pre-employment checks and providing professional advice on job descriptions and salaries. They also ensure that the necessary approvals have been sought through a workforce board and provide professional advice on content, job descriptions, advertising and supporting interviews if required. The responsibilities of the appointing officers. Appointing officers evaluate the need for posts, complete the recruitment forms, ensure job descriptions are updated, shortlist the applicants and ensure new employees receive proper induction. Temporary agency and consultant appointments. For temporary and consultant appointments, appointing officers must get approval from the Directorate Workforce Board and liaise with West Midlands Temps, which is managed by Opus People Solutions. Contract types and procurement rules. Contracts are categorised by value, with different procurement rules for major, ordinary, minor and low value contracts, each requiring varying levels of competitive tendering and quotations. Employee and agency worker numbers. This is at the 9th of December. The council employs 3,509 staff directly, excluding schools, and 5,416 in total, including schools, with a total of 235 agency workers, excluding schools. Terms of employment for agency workers. Agency workers have day one rights to shared facilities and after 12 weeks are entitled to equal pay and other benefits similar to permanent employees. Shropshire Council ensures equal pay from day one. Differences in employment terms. Agency staff are employed by the agency, often lack job security and benefits, whereas directly employed staff have more stability and receive benefits directly from the council. Cost comparison. The full document provides a cost comparison between agency and directly employed staff for 3 roles, showing that agency staff are generally more expensive, with differences ranging from 0.71% to 37.6%, the highest being for social workers, but this does not take into account holiday, sickness or allowances made for retention payments for social workers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Rosemary, do you have a supplementary question?
No, thank you, Councillor Butler, for the information. I look forward to reading it in detail.
Thank you. And thank you very much for the proceed answer as opposed to the full one. Okay, the next question is from Councillor Brian Williams.
Wish me to read the question?
Yes, with your microphone on, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Now that the new procedure for Shropshire Council taxpayers to obtain a time slot to visit a waste disposal site has been in operation for some weeks, could the portfolio holder give an update on the effectiveness of the procedure and indicate any teething problems or significant difficulties that have had to be overcome for both staff at the sites and those visiting to dispose of their waste? Question
Brian. And the response is going to come from Ian Nellins as the portfolio holder for climate change, environment and transport. Councillor Nellins.
Thank you, Councillor Ian Nellins, portfolio holder for climate change, environment and transport. Thanks, Brian, for your question. I have provided you with the slides, but just to give the headlines of the data, there were 24,023 bookings made in the month of November from the 5th of November. The residual tonnage was down by 25% from the previous 2 years. This is possibly a spike, but I remind people that this is the processing of that waste is what costs the council the additional money, so that's where the savings can be made. There were 2,245 vehicles that turned up who had not booked. That number was quite significant in the first week, but has dropped significantly since then, as people are now starting to be educated and get a better understanding of the booking procedures. The snow on the 19th had a major impact on the site usage, as you would expect. We've had one rogue van who's visited the site 15 times. Apparently, the system can allow that at the minute, but that's being adapted, and we are writing to that individual with the terms and conditions so that they cannot make as many future visits. The cars that made 25 to 20 visits, we suspect are small businesses. So we have agreed with Veolia to produce a protocol for dealing with these so that we can deter that as well. We only had 123 bookings from the Telford and Wrekin council area, and we had 20 abusive customers recorded. Again, this is probably down to the fact that they weren't aware of the new booking system. Most of these people who were disruptive or abusive were in the Whitchurch and Oswestry HRCs. And as I said, the slides provided give a breakdown of the data for all of the individual household recycling centres. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Williams, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you. I was interested to note that there was one Rouge van that visited the site. Could Councillor Nellins confirm that this was actually a rogue van?
The rogue van was indeed of a Rouge colour. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Good. Well, I hope you got the answer you wanted. Okay, so the next question is from Councillor Rob Wilson. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. Please, can you confirm that both Greyfriars and Frankwell footbridges in Shrewsbury were recently closed because they were deemed dangerous and no remedial action was taken? Instead, Shrewsbury Town Council cleaned the bridges to make them safe after being contacted by concerned local businesses.
Thank you. And Councillor Dan Morris, we're back to you again.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Wilson, for your question. Shropshire Council Street Scene and Highways team have been working through a backlog of reactive requests following prolonged periods of bad weather. These requests have outstripped available resources and hindered our ability to respond in what some might perceive in a timely manner. The issues have been prioritised, and we're working through these as quickly as possible. The process has included collaboration with Shrewsbury Town Council, and colleagues will continue with that important work. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson, do you have a supplementary question?
Yeah, just briefly, I think there has been some good work with Shrewsbury Town Council. It has often come at the Shrewsbury Town Council making the first move, and this is key pedestrian infrastructure that Shropshire Council just said it couldn't maintain. I just don't think that's acceptable, and I hope the council will look into why this happens so that it doesn't happen again.
All right, and your question is?
Can you look into it so it doesn't happen again?
Right, okay, thank you very much. So we'll move on to the question from Councillor David Basma. Councillor Basma.
Thank you, Chair. Given the external auditor has criticised the council for not preparing for the possibility of the North West Relief Road being cancelled, what consideration has the council given to the loss of the LEP funding, and what contingency plans does it have in place to mitigate the loss? The external auditor highlighted serious governance failings, with meetings cancelled, not minuted, and spending not properly authorised. What changes has the council made to comply with the external auditor's concerns? The council was planning to use 136 million of funding from the local transport fund allocated after the park cancellation H2 to improve transport infrastructure throughout the county. This is the commitment made by the cabinet member, Councillor Ian Nellins, when funding was announced in February. First indication is that it will be offer the opportunity to improve the county's roads, bus and rail services and transport infrastructure, which is great news for the county. Why has council turned its back on the rest of the county and abandoned any improvements in local infrastructure in preference to ploughing much of the local transport fund money into North West Relief Road? And why is the council ignoring the instruction given by the former Transport Minister, Guy Opperman, over the 136 million allocated to Shropshire from the local transport fund? In February this year, the Minister was quoted in the Shropshire Star as follows: "The money can't be diverted into the controversial Shrewsbury North West Relief Road, which is a separate project."
Thank you. Councillor Dan Morris.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Vasman. LEP funding was secured for the Oxon Link Road rather than the North West Relief Road as part of an approved FBC for the Oxon Link Road. Even if the North West Relief Road were cancelled, the council could still deliver the Oxon Link Road scheme, and therefore this funding would not be at risk of being lost. The external auditor's report, considered by the Audit Committee on the 28th of November 24, summarised information and reports that the council's own audit team carried out more than 12 months ago, and resulted in reports to the Audit Committee in February and September this year. The findings relate to the situation at the time, and the committee has been given assurances by the North West Relief Road project team that recommendations made by auditors have been responded to at each stage. The committee has asked for a further update from the project team at a meeting in February 25 on progress against the recommendations it has made. The local transport fund funding award letter was sent to Shropshire Council dated 1st of March 24, stating in writing, "This is a historic level of funding for these councils. The new funds can pay for the infrastructure that communities really want, from new roads to mass transit systems, more EV charge points, or refurbished bus and train stations to filling potholes. As of today, there have been no further update from the current government to alter the previous government's intention to fully fund the project."
Thank you. Councillor Vasma, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I believe that there are time limits on the funding, the AEP funding for the Oxon Link Road, and I mean surely there must be a danger that this funding will be lost because of the delays.
Thank you. Councillor Morris.
Is that a question?
Well, I guess so. Is there a risk?
Not as far as I'm aware.
All right. I'm sure should you identify one, Councillor Vasma, he will come back to you. So the next question is from Councillor Colin Taylor. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chairman. In view of all the changes taking place in the restructuring and provision of services to Shropshire at all levels, can Council be updated and informed of the amount of reliance being placed on PricewaterhouseCoopers for advice and guidance? How much has been paid to PwC in this financial year to date, and how much is projected to be paid to them in total for this financial year? Has a flat fee been agreed, or are they remunerated by the day, the week, or the month? Can we be informed what criteria are used to ensure that we are getting value for money from PwC? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. And I believe Gwilym Butler, as a portfolio holder, you are providing the answer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's Councillor Gwilym Butler, portfolio holder for Finance, Corporate Resources and Communities. The Council has a contract with PwC to be our transformation partner, and as such, we can use this relationship to provide advice and guidance whenever and wherever required to support us in the delivery of the Shropshire Plan and our mid-term financial strategy. Council gave approval on the 29th of February 2024 as part of the financial strategy to continue to engage PwC within a framework of delegation set out in the recommendation 17 and paragraphs 4.7 and 4.8. The fee was capped at 10% of the savings target, therefore 6.2 million, with an expectation that savings to that level would be delivered in year, but would be recurrent and therefore also greater benefit in the years to come. This year, we have mainly used PwC to provide advice, capability and capacity in three main areas, these being to reduce our third-party spend, to help implement our customer digital transformation ambitions, and to review our services in a bid to resize our establishment while preparing to implement our new operating model. We have an agreement to pay up to 6.02 million to PwC for their input, of which we have paid 4.1 million to date. This is through a combination of different fees which are mainly aligned to the achievement of key milestones or agreed outcomes. We assess the value for money based on the anticipated return on investment and anticipate that once delivered, this activity will provide full year financial benefits of around 24.8 million, which is a return on investment of around 4 to 1. We have robust government arrangements in place to monitor the delivery and performance, as well as checking delivery against agreed milestones and outcomes. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor, do you have a supplementary question? No. Good. So that is the scheduled 6. As I said at the beginning, we do have an urgent question. Councillor Alex Wagner.
Just to thank the Chair for accepting this as an urgent question. It relates to the Council response to flooding over the last few days with Storm Dara. Flood warnings and alerts have been put in place across Shropshire since Saturday the 7th of December due to the impact of Storm Dara. Many residents have struggled to get across the county, with trees falling onto power cables and cars, transport links of all sorts cut off, and many homes, gardens and farms under water. Shropshire Council, the emergency services, community groups, and no doubt many others have done important work in dealing with the impact of the storm. I'm sure every member echoes thanks to everyone involved for their hard work under what are often incredibly difficult circumstances. This said, the Council does not always learn its lesson from storms and emergency weather events. As an example, residents by the quarry in Shrewsbury were promised 18 months ago, after Storm Henk, that the drains on Crescent Lane would be cleared out to allow flood pumps to work efficiently. This has not been actioned, and as a result, residents have been hit harder than they would have been by Storm Dara. Could the Deputy Leader provide some update on the actions being taken to future-proof our county over drainage and related flooding issues like the one above, not only in terms of drain clearance, but also tree and hedge maintenance and the planning of housing developments?
Thank you. Councillor Ian Dallins. All right, go on then. I'm following this verbatim, and there we go. All right.
I'm grateful to Councillor Wagner for the opportunity to answer a question because I was feeling a bit left out. Shropshire Council have been working to support the Quarry Flood Action Group since the flooding in 2020. The build-up of debris on Crescent Lane has been discussed on several occasions. This discussion has centred around the build-up of leaves against a private fence. Following a flood, Shropshire Council undertake road sweeping and cleansing in a number of locations across Shrewsbury, with priority given to major routes into the town, such as Smithfield Road. Once levels drop, Shropshire Council regularly arrange a road sweeper to attend Crescent Lane to remove any debris on the public highway. There are 2 highway gullies on Crescent Lane. However, these sit above the flood level of the River Severn. Shropshire Council have no drainage assets in the flood zone, which would impact a private flood pump. As a highways authority, Shropshire Council have a duty to ensure Crescent Lane is passable to pedestrian and vehicle traffic following a flood event, but are not responsible for the removal of the build-up of leaves against a private fence. The Council will, however, continue to engage with the Flood Action Group and can request that the owner of this private fence removes the leaves and debris following a flood in future.
Thank you. Okay. Well, there isn't a supplementary question. You've asked the important question, so we will move on to item 7. Thank you for the response. Shropshire Corporate Parenting. I'm going to invite Councillor Kirsty Hurst-Knight as the portfolio holder for children education to present the report, remove the recommendations of said report, that they be received and agreed. I would, just before Kirsty stands up to start, though, like to say that we have a young gentleman with us today, Woody Schemmel, who is the co-chair of the Corporate Parenting Steering Board, who will also say a few words. Welcome. Nice to see you. Nice to have a quick chat with you in the foyer earlier. Kirsty will, I'm sure, bring you in either before or after, or during. Kirsty, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Really pleased to bring this report to Council today. I'm looking over to Councillor Kerr when I say look at the strategy in the Charter. I think it's version 22. We really wanted to do a lot of work on this and get it right. We talked about presenting the charity to you. Soft launch today, more to come. Please go and buy cakes. I just really want to express my thanks. This is where cross-political party working has really shown, come together. We are all corporate parents. We've put our heads together. We started from a base, and actually the report says refresh, but I like to feel that it's a bit more than that. It's revolutionised how we are representing our young people and children here today. The very fact that I've got Woody, we've done a couple of meetings together now. He's getting into the swing of chairing them, and hopefully I'll start to take a more backseat, and Woody, as the young person with care leaver experience, will actually take the forefront and chair. So I'm really grateful for your time, and it's really important that we now start to have that thread through everything that we do, that voice of the young person. So much work has gone into this. The last meeting, I think Woody will touch on, but it felt really, I think it's something that other councillors have said, it felt like a group of parents talking about their children, and that's exactly where we want it to be. We've done so much work around this. It's recognised today. This is a good report. I'll come back to the recommendations because that's the legal bit I believe I have to do, but I'm going to hand over to Woody, my co-chair. Thank you, Woody.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I've had the privilege of working with Kirsty on this report, and I'm pleased to see it being brought before full council today. As co-chair of the Corporate Parenting Steering Board, I've had the opportunity to work with incredible people such as Terry Galloway, as well as members of the Leaving Care team who helped us benchmark our strategy. While we've made excellent progress, there is still room to improve. A few meetings in, I've had the opportunity to meet the members for Health, Police and Youth Justice, attend a presentation by a virtual school youth council member, and attend a meeting of said council. Meeting face-to-face has proven to be particularly impactful on the board's efficacy. Looking forward, I'm excited about tackling new challenges, taking on all my role has to offer, and working to further improve Shropshire Council's corporate parenting strategy and its offerings for looked after young people and care leavers. I'd also like to announce there is a bake sale on the landing that is raising funds for our charity Above and Beyond, which seeks to aid looked after young people and care leavers in fulfilling their aspirations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Woody. Beautifully delivered, and you're a credit. Well done. Thank you.
Well, you've said what I was going to say. Now you can see why we've absolutely got the right person for the role. So thank you. Your enthusiasm and commitment to getting this right is really shone through. So thank you. So I'm just happy to present the recommendations that the council will all sign up to all re-sign, thank you, to the Care Leavers Covenant. I know a lot of you have already done it. Please, it's outside there to be signed up. Endorse the corporate parenting strategy approved by the Corporate Parenting Steering Group as to meet the aims, objectives and outcomes of the council as a good corporate parent. Approve the Corporate Parenting Steering Board, continuing to act as an advisory and consultative body to the council, its partners and its committees and other strategic groups, so as to ensure that the council's corporate parenting duties are carried out effectively and consistently. And 3.4, support the launch of the Care Leavers charity Above and Beyond, and buy cakes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I believe, Peggy, you're seconding that.
Yes, and can I just say, as one of the trustees...
You're speaking now, reserving your right.
Speaking now,
right.
It's relevant, because I'm one of the trustees of the charity, and I would really like to ask all councillors to please take note of the Above and Beyond article and what you could do to help our young care leavers. Quite happy to come and talk to any group in anybody's division. And you know, these young people deserve a chance that we can give them if we can get some funding for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'll reserve me right.
Super.
Wrong way round, probably.
I do have two speakers, but just Tony Parsons and Roger Evans, but I'm just going to endorse this personally, as those of you who have been around since the inception of Shropshire Council as a unitary council, 2009, you know that we've all been supporters of our looked after children, and none more so than myself. I'm still involved in a good number of ways, not all through the council, and honestly, it's a great report, and I will certainly be supporting the recommendations. So, Councillor Tony Parsons.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to quickly say that we obviously strongly support the work of the Corporate Parenting Board. It acts in a cross-party manner. We look to
raise issues and come forward with improvements. And we strongly support the measures highlighted today. And it was good to see members queuing to sign the Care Leavers Covenant prior to this meeting. And for any that haven't signed yet, then we hope we will do during the day. But we strongly support this. Thank you.
Good. Roger Evans, then Duncan Kerr. Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. It's just that this is something where the whole council, I think, are united together on. And I would hope that it's unanimous when the report comes for the voting shortly, and confirm that all the members of my group, our group, will be, if they haven't already, be signing the appropriate paperwork. But I would urge that all those here actually do. It is important, very important, and it should be something that the council fully supports and chose it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, first of all, I think we ought to pay testimony to Woody, who had to sit for the last hour, which must have tested his resilience, as it possibly did with some of us as well. So, I mean, I think it's a huge evidence of our real commitment to children who have been in care and are leaving care. And I think this is a fantastic piece of work that Kirsty's overseen, but it's been brought about by all groups working together on what is probably the most important issue we have as a council, which is the ability to impact on the children in our care and shape their future. And I'm just very exhilarated about how the council has responded to that challenge. I think Above and Beyond is a fantastic step, but really what I wanted to most pay attention to is I never thought I'd be inspired by a sentence in a council report, but in 2.8 it says Shropshire Council is committed to bringing love back in the system approach. And I think that is a fantastic aspiration to have. And I pay tribute to everybody who wrote that and is part of that, because many people might criticise that as pie in the sky. It isn't. It's exactly what we should have at the heart of our commitment to our children. And I think it's fantastic that we've been brave enough to actually put that in the public domain and state it as boldly and as simply as that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Heather Kidd.
I welcome the report as well. It's really, really good. What I will be interested in is some method of actually looking at the impact that our new strategy has had above the old strategy that we have had in the past of corporate parenting. So the outcomes from this are really important to me, and I hope that those will be brought to council at some point.
Thank you, Raj. Just before I go back to you, in my speaker's running agenda, it uses the word debate. What I'd like to say is to thank all councillors, because clearly this isn't a debate. This is a commitment on our part to support because they are our young people. And I also want to thank the team around them for the phenomenal work that they do as well. And I hope I haven't stolen a bit more of your stuff, Kirsty. Sorry. Oh well. It won't make the meeting any longer because you don't have to say it anymore. So, but I'm sure you will anyway. Kirsty, do you have anything to finish on?
No, absolutely, Councillor Kidd, get that. We will obviously see what this means, and also you can come back with some sort of evidence with the charity as well, how we're supporting aspirations. That's the whole thing that this means, aspiration. Let's not, forget that this is doing right. Is it good enough for our own children? Is it good enough for our corporate children? Absolutely. So welcome this report. Put forward the recommendations. Thanks to Woody, and there's more yet to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We have heard the report, we've heard what council thinks, and now we have to vote on the recommendations 3.1 through to 3.4. I'm sure it's going to be unanimous. However, all those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? That was as predicted, unanimous. As if you haven't heard it enough already, there will be a cake sale out in the foyer. It does say bring your pennies. I hope you brought a bit more than that because it's worthwhile. Okay, we will move on, councillors. Thank you, Woody. To item 8, which is the annual report of the portfolio holder for children and education. Kirsty.
Hey. Really, really, really pleased to bring this report, my annual report of children and education, to you today. I don't know whether I should be pleased or slightly humbled that the officers that helped me through this are actually in the council chamber to hear this today. So it's actually quite an important moment. Please go out at the break as well and go and meet the guys, see what they do. Fantastic work and evidence of all sorts of areas of this portfolio. So, okay, I'm going to try and get through this without crying. And those of you that know me will know that this is going to be quite hard. Okay. There really is so much to celebrate and thank our dedicated, committed and hard-working team for the drive, not just to be good, but to be better in all areas. It's clearly evident in this report today. I work with, quite frankly, the best. Life can be hard, unsafe, complex and challenging for children, young people and families of Shropshire. I hear accounts and I see evidence of the teams going above and beyond to make things better for these people. Ofsted recognise it, the LGA and Abbey audits recognise it, other local authorities recognise this, health, police, other stakeholders recognise this, educational providers recognise this. I hope council today will recognise it. I'm always personally impressed by the drive of our teams to improve standards in search of excellence and to be outstanding. It has truly been a privilege and an honour to be your portfolio holder and work with you over this time. Thank you for all your efforts, resulting in better outcomes. And today we get to recognise your hard work and your efforts. So thank you. I'm going to say thank you quite a lot and I make no apologies for that. Thank you as well to Scrutiny, where you hold us account to the work that we do. And again, a really good evidence of cross-working political parties through the Children's Improvement Board following a highlight visit of Ofsted. We now actually can't be called the Improvement Board. We're getting to that point where we've achieved our goals. We're going to be an aspirational board and keep working and keep striving for excellence. So that's really good news. Also in the corporate parenting paper that I've just presented, that's an opportunity where everyone can get involved. And that's shown evidence today in how we are making things better for children and young people. The report will show you we're not sitting back. We know there's work to be done, but to be mindful that when this report was written, it was a few months ago. We know about the maths and the phonics, and I think that's coming back to scrutiny and work will be done to evidence how we've improved that. I just would like to take this opportunity as well. They are here. We should say a really big thank you. You know, there's a lot of stuff that we can't bring to you for safeguarding reasons, but please be assured from our children's legal team that I had the honour to meet recently, the dedicated work that they're doing, the way the court have recognised that Shropshire Council, our social workers and our legal team are quite something else. It's really important that it's recognised by us today. So I've got a whole host of thank yous really, but you know, our children are safe. They're well educated, they're looked after. And yes, there are problems along the way, but we address those. We address them quickly and robustly. And that's really important to know. Thank you to the councillors that don't wait to these council meetings to bring up issues. They pick up the phone and we get things sorted for children and young people. So I'm not going to say too much more because I will actually start crying and that's quite embarrassing. But, you know, thank you. It doesn't seem like much, but honestly, the work that they're doing, the fostering, adoption, we could go on and on and on. You've got the opportunity to go and meet them at break and buy cakes, if we haven't said that enough. But please take the opportunity to go and actually speak to them because what they're doing is literally above and beyond. And thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. I've had Councillor Nick Bardsley indicate. Councillor Bardsley.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a long report and I don't want to add to it except for one important respect, just to set it in context. I was a cabinet member for Children's Services a few years ago, and at that time, the numbers of children looked after was knocking on or about 300. Sometimes it was a bit below, sometimes it was a bit above. You'll see now that we have 714 children looked after. So the work that our team are doing is immeasurably harder. Well, not immeasurably hard, but it's twice as hard. And in case the obvious question occurs to members, why have we got so many children in care? You have only, sadly, to look at reports in today's media that large numbers of children are believed to die each year because we're not getting onto this quickly enough. the most notorious, of course, sadly, is Sarah Sharif, but many, many others. This is vitally important work. And I pay tribute to Kirsty, to Ed Potter, who was cabinet member immediately after me 4 or 5 years ago. It's a fabulous job, but it's enormously demanding, and you always have to bear in mind you've only got to make one mistake. You've only got to make one wrong judgment, and sadly, a child can then die. And you know, that's been the case here in Shropshire. We shouldn't pretend that doesn't happen here. This is not just an urban problem, it applies to all local authorities. So an enormous thank you, and my personal tribute to the present team. If I can just stray slightly into the previous report, a previous Secretary of State many years ago said that we should regard looked after children as if they were our own children, or our nephews and nieces, or our grandchildren. And if we think about looked after children and in that way, then that's a very, very good start. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I've got a few on the list now. Councillor Clare-Wild.
Thank you, Chairman. So I'm speaking really as chair of transformation, but also as a corporate parent. Children's Services, as Nick has said, has altered significantly over the years. And what I want to say is that I really think that the whole staff ought to be congratulated on the way that they have transformed the service and continue to transform it. All the things that they're doing, including stepping stones and the other things, it gives much better outcomes for the children. And obviously it helps us as well. But there are a lot of them are here today, and I just want to add to what everyone else has said. They do a fantastic job, an incredibly hard job, but I want them to know that we are here and we will always support them because they do such an incredible job under incredibly difficult circumstances, and they're always thinking of ways to change and improve the service. So I really do thank them all.
Councillor Ruth Houghton.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to echo the comments already made in the Chamber, but specifically have a couple of questions. One relating to education, around the outcomes for young people in mathematics, which are currently below the national average, and ask the portfolio holder what additional support is being provided to schools in order to improve the outcomes for young people so that they're closer or exceeding the national average for mathematics. And then more widely on the education, health and care plans, this is a very important area of young people's education where they have additional needs. It's very good news that the quality of those plans are improving, and that's been something that's been wanted for some time, and it's good to see that come to fruition. But the Institute for Fiscal Studies this week has recognised that spending on SEND and education, health and care plans could spiral out of control without any reform of funding. So given the significant increase in the number of plans in the Shropshire Council area, does this council, the local schools and stakeholders and partners have adequate resources to respond to this need?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Duncan Kerr.
Yeah, I'd like to echo a lot of what's already been said. It's been an extremely difficult time to make these sorts of improvements, but it's been quite dramatic. The improvements have been achieved, particularly over the last year with the Children's Improvement Board in place. However, there's a tendency in the past, I'm afraid, for these things to be cyclical, for there to be problems, there to be improvements, and then when things go well, services which divert or prevent get cut, because it seems as though there's a little bit of give that's being taken from them. And then you see a cycle where things deteriorate and you go back into the same route again of cuts and growth and cuts and growth. And I think we must ensure that we avoid this. And so my question or opportunity for the portfolio holder is to say that Stepping Stones, and 7.29 sets out very clearly the success of the Stepping Stones project, was extended. And I'd like to hear that the council is committed to keeping that as an extended team in its budget preparations for 2025-26. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Heather Kidd.
Just a couple of things alongside SEND. I'm always particularly concerned about the number of children who actually require help, but it takes a long time to get it. So I'd quite like to know what we're going to do to speed that process up so that those care packages are put in place as rapidly as possible. What I would also like to say is, and I have raised this, certainly with the leader, alongside the Marches Forward partnership, in that if you have a border school, we have a number of SEND children coming across the border and asking for places in our schools, which are very difficult actually to turn down. It takes months and months and months, much longer than for us, to get any sort of funding to come with those children. And when it does arrive, we're lucky if we get 7,000 for a one-to-one care package. The rest of that funding has to come from a small primary school's budget. It is a significant issue. It also then will impact on our own SEND children, which is a double whammy. And I would ask that actually the council prioritises working with Powys County Council so that we have a much smoother process and we find a better way of actually supporting our SEND children, because it's in the interests of both the child from Powys, but also the child from Shropshire, the children from Shropshire who are in those rooms with these children who really want the best out of life, and that's what we need for every child. And my very last question around all of this is, maths is below par across the county. There is best practice across the county. What are we doing to look at that best practice and roll it out to other schools, please?
Thank you. Councillor Roger Evans.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not going to add a lot to what has already been said. It is a service which we most value, and congratulations to all those in attendance who actually provided, as well as the portfolio holder. But where I'm coming from is, I noted in the minutes of the last meeting, as agreed earlier on, and they are correct, there are 2 annual reports of portfolio holders, but there is no comment about any of the discussion involved in those reports. And I would ask if officers can actually put a précis in some of the congratulatory and other questions that have been raised by members today. Just include a précis or something in the minutes, just to show what is there for record and to show where this council is at present. At the moment, the 2 reports there just say questions and comments were made, and that's all. So I would like a record somewhere of the points that have been raised today, both congratulatory and asking for information, please. Thank you.
Okay, I will discuss that with officers afterwards, but of course these meetings are recorded, so there is a recording of it. But I'll have a chat with officers afterwards, Roger. As I say, I'm sure somebody can send you a link to the YouTube video that's probably a must for Christmas viewing for most folks. Councillor Parry.
Just a quick one. I'd like to add that from my experience with my children, it's a lot better now than it was when I got my children. I found that when siblings are split up, you get a lot of problems eventually. If they could possibly have a professional that goes up to 18 that speaks to them on occasion, because when they're adopted, that seems to go. I found that one of my siblings, unfortunately, has problems with mental health, and she's had that since she was a little girl. She used to cut the tops off all my roses in the garden at one time. She has the ability to not have anybody to speak to. She's gone through bad periods in her life. If they could possibly keep that up to the age of 18, it would help tremendously. And unfortunately, when the siblings are split up, it really affects either one or 2 of the siblings. So that would be I think that would be a good idea.
Right, Kirsty, we come back to you. I don't have anybody else on my list.
I'll do my very best. Thank you, Chair. Okay, Councillor Bardsley, the children looked after number at the lowest they've been today since 2022. Let that sink in a moment. And that is because of the work of Stepping Stones and Early Help. Early Help have hubs all across the county. If you want to know what's in your local area, what's the offer, I'll gladly get that information to you. Had the honour of visiting one recently. Absolutely fantastic. The way, no stigma, go in and get that help and support. Horrific events that we've all seen played out in the media this morning. Yes, to confirm that we do have an elected home education register. We are a local authority that has that. And anybody electing to educate their child at home, an Early Help and Compass response will be prompted, so we can absolutely check that this is done for the right reasons, and the elected home education team will support. Councillor Wilde, thank you for your comments. I'll make sure the team, most of them are here, but we'll make sure that everybody hears your comments. Councillor Houghton, a little bit confused because you sat in scrutiny and you heard the outcomes of the maths and what the AD for Education is doing about that and supporting across the county with education. I'll make sure that you get that information again with the EHCP. That was also discussed in people scrutiny, and well done to the team. Quality and the amount that they're doing there to reduce the outstanding number is quite phenomenal. Councillor Kerr, yes, we have agreed to extend Stepping Stones, rightly so, absolutely brilliant work. The SEND hubs, we've extended the offer, more hubs, SEND hubs that attach to schools across the county, and we invest in these. And yes, we do need to do more work, Councillor Kidd, with cross-border local authorities, and that is definitely happening, not just with transport, but with education and best possible package for our young people. Councillor Parry, where possible, we don't separate siblings. We absolutely do our very utmost to keep them together, and you can all play your part in that if you share the fostering and adoption social media posts, because they're out there and they're doing an excellent job and reaching more and families. We've had a bigger take up than we've ever had, so play your part, please, and get sharing. And I think that's it. Any further answers I can get to you. Thank you.
Okay. So, thank you, Kirsty. We don't need to take a vote on that because we are merely noting it. I assume all members are content so to do.
Vince, could I just make a comment from the scrutiny panel, please?
No, you can't.
Can't, okay.
Item 9 is setting the council tax base for 25-26. Just a reminder to members that a recorded vote must be taken in relation to the budget and council tax items under the legislation. So I am going to ask Councillor Gwilym Butler to introduce this report as the Portfolio of Finance, Corporate Resources and Communities. Gwilym.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You can all stay for the finance bit if you want.
It's riveting. Shall I carry on, Chair?
Just give these folks a minute to clear. It is a bit distracting on the eye, but I don't blame them. But I wish I could follow them on this bit. But there you go. Okay, Gwilym.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's Councillor Gwilym Butler, Portfolio Holder for Finance, Corporate Resources and Communities. Every year, the council has to equate how many front doors it actually has to actually issue council tax bills to, and therefore it can equate how much income it will receive in the following year following the acceptance of the budget. In this year, we have seen an increase in the equivalent number of bandees of 1.83%, which is quite a good rise for Shropshire, and therefore we will be able to understand the income the council will receive from the council tax in the next financial year. It is effectively housekeeping, Chair, and I'm not going to debate it any further, and I shall move the recommendations as set out in item 3. Thank you.
Good, and I understand that is Councillor Simon Harrison seconding that.
Yeah, that's correct. As Councillor Butler has said, this is pretty much housekeeping, so I will second and reserve any rights.
Good. Okay. No hands, so unless you have something to say it. Councillor Harris?
That's a no.
Okay, Willem, you do have the right of reply, but you wouldn't be replying to anything. So I'm sure you probably don't want to take that right up, as you
Move
say,
on,
it's
Chair, thank you.
housekeeping.
Happy for you to move on, Chair.
Good. So we will move to the vote, which, as I said at the beginning, will be a recorded vote.
Roy Aldcroft.
For.
Caroline Bagnall.
For.
Nicholas Bardsley. Joyce Barrow.
For.
Bernie Bentic.
For.
Thomas Biggins. Edward Bird. For. Andy Boddington.
For.
Peter Broomhall.
For.
Gary Birchett.
For.
Willem Butler.
For.
Dean Carroll. For. Steve Charmley. Ted Clark.
For.
Rachel Connolly.
For.
Gerald Dakin. Rosemary Dartnell.
For.
Steve Davenport. Mary Davies.
For.
Julian Dean. Jeff Elner.
For.
David Evans.
For.
Roger Evans.
For.
Paul Gill.
For.
Rob Gittins.
For.
Nat Green.
For.
Kate Halliday. Simon Harris. Nigel Harting.
For.
Nick Hignett.
For.
Bruce Houghton.
For.
Richard Huffer. Tracy Huffer.
For.
Vince Hunt. For. Kirsty Hurst Knight. Mark Jones.
For.
Simon Jones.
For.
Duncan Kerr.
For.
Heather Kidd.
For.
Christian Lee. Hilary Luff.
For.
Nigel Lumby.
For.
Robert Macy.
For.
David Minery.
For.
Dan Morris.
For.
Pam Mosley.
For.
Cecilia Motley.
For.
Peggy Mullock. Ian Nellins.
For.
Viv Parry. Tony Parsons.
For.
Leslie Picton.
For.
Ed Potter.
For.
John Price.
For.
Chris Schofield. Andrew Sherrington.
For.
Colin Taylor.
For.
Dan Thomas. Robert Tyndall. Edward Towers.
For.
Kevin Turley. David Vasmer.
For.
Alex Wagner.
For.
Claire Wild. Brian Williams.
For.
Mark Williams.
For.
Rob Wilson.
For.
Paul Wynne.
For.
Thank you.
I don't think we need to count those. Just one question from me at the chair, though. I can't really call that unanimous, can I? Because there were some members who were out in the foyer. So everybody in the chamber. Yeah, unanimous for those in the chamber. How about that? Okay, good. So we will move on then to item 10, which is the Treasury strategy for 24-25 mid-year review. Once again, I'm going to invite Councillor Gwilym Butler, and I'm not going to read out the whole portfolio again, but he's the relevant portfolio holder to present and move the report and the recommendations be received and agreed. Gwilym.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's Councillor Gwilym Butler, portfolio holder for Finance, Corporate Resources and Communities. Again, this is SIP for best practice to bring these Treasury reviews to Council and Cabinet and audit on a regular basis. It is a housekeeping matter yet again. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the debate. I'm going to move the recommendations in 3.5 to 3.8 as noted in the report for members to agree and note. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe Councillor Harris, you are seconding that?
Yeah, that is correct. I would just add that this has been thoroughly scrutinised at the Audit Committee, which I am Vice Chair of, and I'd like to second the Treasury report. I'd also like to congratulate the officers that put this report together. It is detailed, it's quite complex, and They've been very competent, I would say, in answering the queries that the audit committee raised. So I second and reserve my rights.
Right.
Thank you.
As I'm taking it now that that's not withholding your right, because you did somewhat rather give quite a long process. If there's
I do
anything else
apologise.
you wish to add, do so now, because I won't be bringing you back at the end.
That's fine.
All right. Okay. Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a technical report and we'll be supporting it, but I'm on the audit committee and I note the Cabinet also looked at this before it came to council, and some of the comments were there made me look at the past history of this council, and I looked at the September 2016 Treasury report, which went to the council then. And in that report, it shows that the council had £175.3 million invested in building societies, banks, and various other financial ones, which complied with our rating that we did it. £175.3 million 8 years ago. I note in this report, if I've read it correctly, that we have £22 million invested in those organisations that I just referred to. So in between time, the council has spent £153 million of capital in that time. I've asked, as some here will know, many times at finances, are we investing to save? Are we investing for income? What I would like to know is what has happened to that £153 million, either now or in a written answer. How has that been invested and what sort of income are we getting from where that £153 million of capital has been spent? Because this council is short of revenue, and it's revenue that we want. And have we invested it to give a return or not? I do not know. So therefore, I am posing the question of £153 million of council capital. What has happened during the previous 8 years? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Okay, Willem, no other hands being shown. So do you have an answer for that? Will you be?
I think I do, Chair. I think I do. Councillor Evans is getting mistaken between cash and capital, because it was cash balances. It wasn't capital. It was just cash balances. Now, I can remind members that since 2010, we've approximately had £400 million taken from this government in the reduction in government grant. The fact that we've lasted this long and still actually delivered all those services to the residents of Shropshire, in my mind, is absolutely outstanding. The main reason we had that cash in the first place was because we'd gone unitary. And it is very unusual for any local authority of our size to actually hold those sort of cash balances on a regular basis. The fact we've lasted this long, I believe, is in recognition of how this administration has run the council financially sound since 2009. Thank you.
Okay. So there are, I believe, I'll get it up because my computer's working for me again. It was just spinning a minute ago. The recommendations, unless you got it in front of you, Tim. I think everybody must be on their mobile phones or something, because my computer's not loading at the relevant pages. All right, so you've got the recommendations there, 3.5 to 3.8. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Right, moving on. Item 11, the Gambling Act 2005 policy statement for 25 to 2028. Going to invite Councillor Chris Schofield as the relevant portfolio holder, present the report, move the report and recommendations so they can be received and agreed. Councillor Schofield.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Chris Schofield, portfolio holder for planning and regulatory services. The Gambling Act 2005 requires the council to prepare and publish a statement of the principles that it proposes to apply in exercising its functions under the Act. The preparation and publishing of the policy statement is a legal requirement under the Gambling Act 2005. The development of the policy statement was overseen by the Council's Strategic Licensing Committee, and formal consultation was undertaken between the 18th of March 2024 and the 9th of June 2024, which resulted in no fundamental or significant amendments to the existing policy. The Council's current Gambling Act 2005 policy statements came into effect on the 31st of January 2022 and will cease to have effect on the 30th of January 2025. The Council must be in a position to formally adopt the revised policy statement with effect from the 31st of January 2025. The policy statement must be approved by Council to allow sufficient time for the necessary publication and advertising to take place prior to the 31st of January 2025. The approval process must be completed by the end of December 2024. Thank you, Chair.
Good. Thank you very much. And I believe that is being seconded by Councillor Jones. Is that correct?
Pleased to second that, and I withhold my right. Thank you.
Okay. Viv.
In this report, it says that we help young and vulnerable people. I would like this council to send a letter to this new government that we have about the television programmes that I see nearly every day that advertise bingo. We are not helping when it comes on at evening meal, when young people are seeing this and they're saying, oh, you must do bingo this, you must do bingo that, you must join all these things. It really knits my teeth, because I thought the government, the last government and this government, were going to do something to help these young people, because once they get that idea in their heads that they can, oh, this is great, now where can I get this from? I'll get it on one of my machines and I'll try this. So that instills them into doing that for the rest of their lives. And the people that lose such a lot of money, I really would like you, us as a council, to send a letter to the new government about it, because it happens at the wrong time of day and it's encouraging youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, when I was a kid, I wouldn't be seen dead anywhere near a bingo hall till I thought I was 90. But it's all online now, so your point is taken. I can't see anybody else. So, Councillor Jones, you withheld your right.
Yeah, no, I have nothing further to add.
Good. Sorry, Chris Schofield.
Just on Councillor Parry's quotes, I think a lot of people would like to write letters at the moment to the new government, but advertising on television, I usually notice is more later at night targeting people, so maybe that was something we could look at, but thank you.
Okay. We will move to the vote then on the recommendations. Mine still hasn't loaded. 3.1. Recommendation being 3.1. I'm not sure if anybody else is having the same spinny effect on their computer every time they try and move to a page, but I apologise. So all those in favour, please show. Any against? Abstentions? Unanimous. Oh, I wonder what the odds on that were. So I had to say.
Been saving that up for that.
No, I just popped into my head. So there we go. I bet you didn't see that coming. That said, we will move on to item 12, which is the Shrewsbury Movement and Public Space Strategy. I'm going to invite Councillor Ian Nellins as the Deputy Leader and Portfolio Holder for Climate Change, Environment and Transport to present the report. Move that the report and the recommendations be received and agreed. Councillor Nellins.
Thank you, Councillor Ian Nellins, Portfolio Holder for Climate Change, Environment and Transport. The Shrewsbury Movement and Public Space Strategy. First of all, I'd like to just make a point on paragraph 3.2, where it presently says delegated to the Executive Director place, which should be delegated responsibility to the Chief Executive. Shrewsbury movement on public space strategy of the MPSS. This strategy has been developed through cross-party work, coordinated through the Shrewsbury Big Town Plan Partnership and with an extensive 9-week consultation. And I'd like to thank the Shrewsbury Big Town Partnership, represented by Shropshire Council, Shrewsbury Town Council, the BID and Independents for their work on this as well as PGA Associates who've done a lot of the work, and the officers involved from Shropshire Council who have undertaken an extensive amount of work on this, and indeed the public for the extensive responses we had to the consultation. The Shrewsbury Big Town Plan sets a strategic vision for the town with a core objective to improve movement, accessibility and the environment, encapsulated in a statement which says, this came out in 2018, traffic in the town centre is very light and slow moving. Pedestrians and cyclists can walk and move wherever they want, making the streets their own. The whole town is much better connected by cycle or on foot in a safe way, avoiding conflict with vehicular traffic. It is possible now to move across the town by cycle or on foot, and that's the aspiration. The MPSS has identified 4 key themes and 14 key principles that have collectively identified 21 strategic interventions. The 4 key themes are traffic management and active travel inside the River Loop, traffic management and active travel outside the River Loop, public transport and micromobility, and the Parking Plus. The MPSS has been developed with extensive stakeholder engagement over a 2-year period, supported by the steering group administered by the Shrewsbury Big Town Plan Partnership. This steering group will continue as part of the governance arrangements of the MPSS and oversee alignment of the strategy with other current and proposed interventions and emerging requirements. The public consultation undertaken by the Shrewsbury Big Town Plan Partnership has been extensive over a 9-week period and is representative of the wider population of Shrewsbury. The demographic who responded to the survey included school and college students through all age groups. Disability groups were also included. It has demonstrated there is significant positive interest in the MPSS from all sectors of the residential and business communities, as well as those across the county and the wider region. The strategy has gained an interest from local authorities due to its collaborative approach, the high levels of public engagement responses. The MPSS sets out the vision, aspirations and the deliverable plan of action and interventions to realise many of the opportunities that it highlights for Shrewsbury. It is vision-led with the goal of making Shrewsbury one of the most inclusive, accessible and economically vibrant towns in the United Kingdom. To achieve this, there must continue to be a transformational approach to rethinking movement and public space within Shrewsbury, whilst recognising that some of these interventions will require further scoping, technical assessment and traffic modelling in the locality, as well as a period of sensitively introducing the interventions. Therefore, the strategy will be authorised to be adaptable and flexible, yet with clear objectives. The importance of ongoing public consultation and engagement as the interventions are designed and developed was a key ask of the Shrewsbury Big Town Plan Partnership. So I propose that the Council agrees to adopt the Shrewsbury Movement and Public Space Strategy as a material consideration in the planning decision-making process, delegate responsibility to the Chief Executive in consultation with the Section 151 officer and the portfolio holder for climate change, environment and transport to progress implementation of the MPSS to include, but not limited to, finalising a 10-year delivery plan subject to securing funding. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe that is being seconded by Councillor Dan Morris.
Thank you, Chair. I'll reserve my right, please.
Okay. Now we're going to come to Julian first, as the team has told me you're going to propose an amendment.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so the amendment was, I hope Councillor Lennons has seen it, the amendment was to add a further recommendation 3.2 to establish a cross-party member group of Shrewsbury councillors as consultees for SIL and highways projects planning in the town to ensure projects are in line with the strategies. In moving that amendment, I want to absolutely echo everything that Ian has said. I think his explanation of the aspirations of this scheme is very welcome, and I think there's cross-party agreements on that. And but also there's agreement that the actual reality of implementing schemes to support this strategy needs good levels of consultation. It needs real community engagement so that we can avoid pushback, and we can take people with us, and we can tweak as we go along, because we've got a historic town where doing some of this work to reduce congestion and to make it more friendly for pedestrians and cyclists and people on wheelchairs and mobility scooters is tough, and so it's a difficult job. But I think in terms of translating that aspiration into reality, we have to face up to the fact that at times we haven't done that very well. And there are schemes around and about the place, the gyratory scheme, for example, the scheme that I've had to come back to council to win through an amendment at full council to see it not die, the 20-mile-an-hour scheme for Port Hill, and various other schemes where the reality of interventions to support the modal shift and making the town more livable from a walking and cycling and wheeling point of view has not always come through. So the idea here is to establish an overview group, a consultee group of councillors who are in touch with the local areas, who, you know, we are answerable for what goes on with these schemes. And if a scheme is put in place and it takes far too long and then the actual outcome is not great, Heathcote's roundabout jumps to mind, various others, then that's difficult for us as councillors, and it's not fair on us. And also, it doesn't do well for the council in terms of making sure this strategy is pursued properly. So the idea is to have a group of councillors, cross-party group of councillors, and just to make it absolutely clear, this is not about blocking, this is about supporting. This is not about insisting that everything is absolutely to the letter of national best practice, because we know it's a historic town and sometimes we will have to make compromises. And it's not about councillors taking pot shots at each other in order to get schemes in their own wards. It is about helping officers and helping the council to deliver these schemes as effectively as possible and to make best use of the resources that we have in terms of SIL and other resources to do this. And finally, just to make the point that this is a different job to the stakeholder group which Ian has referred to, which hasn't actually talked about these sort of SIL schemes. It hasn't talked about the gyratory, for example. It is concentrated more on the riverside development and the town centre developments. So I think it is a different role. So I would very much welcome Councillor Nellens, I hope, support for this, or if not support immediately for this amendment, then at least some sort of proposal to make sure that members in Shrewsbury get a bit more oversight over these schemes as they're developed, to make sure that they are actually in line with our aspirations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just before I ask for a second for procedural clarification, it wouldn't be an attachment to 3.2 in the recommendations. What you are proposing is that 3.3 is added. No, that's all right. But I just wanted that clarified. And it's being seconded, I'm sure, probably by Duncan. Yeah, as I thought it probably would be. Good. Okay. Now, before I go into the debate, Rosemary, if that's all right, I'm just going to ask the portfolio holder if he would be willing to take that extra recommendation. If not, we will then debate the amendment before we move back to the substantive.
Thank you, and I understand where Julian's coming from, but I think that group already exists through the Shrewsbury Big Town Plan Partnership. It has got cross-party membership. It is fed, it can be fed through Shrewsbury Town Council, through the Shrewsbury Town Council members who sit on that partnership. So I don't feel that it needs to be overcomplicated any further. And I think the avenues are the conduit from the council through council members who are structure council members.
I think, not to wish to cut you short, that would be a very long-winded no. Okay. You're more than welcome to come back in during the debate, but not hogging, if that's right. Sorry, Ian. Okay, so Rosemary, are you speaking to the original or to the amendment?
Both, but I'll speak to the amendment for now,
right.
Please. Thank you. I just sent an email, copied an email to members so they can see a new installation that's been put on Notley Road, which is exactly the kind of situation that I think Councillor Dean is referring to, that we should avoid. This is a situation where a death trap for cyclists has been created inadvertently, I have no doubt, but if it had been put through such a group as Councillor Dean is proposing, and we are supporting, then this would not have happened. The considerations the considerations of safety for cyclists on long existing cycle paths would have been taken into account, and the proposal would have been amended. So this is a perfect example, timely and extremely unfortunate, but it shows that the input of local members in such decisions is absolutely vital. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rob Wilson.
I do support the amendment as well. I think, as Councillor Dartmouth has excellently pointed out, there are examples across the town and in planning developments. If we're looking towards the south of town, where there's going to be a huge amount of building, the master plans as currently laid out don't fit in with the movement strategy. If this council today adopts the movement strategy, it really does need to drive and be linked into every part of policy. And the big town plan partnership is, I think I'm right in saying this, only focused on the town centre. There is a very particular red line for the big town plan partnership and where they cover. It doesn't cover the donut around the town centre where lots of us represent. So I think we're saying is that this extra group does need to exist to actually consider those interrelated issues. There's a plan with 21 different interventions. It is a complicated jigsaw of moving parts. And I don't think the Big Town Plan Board has the scope and capacity or even the remit, because of where it's currently constituted, sorry, to really look at all these issues as Rosemary, as Julian have suggested. So I think we should support this amendment.
Okay, I haven't got anybody else. So now I go back to the portfolio holder. You've probably said quite a lot of what you wanted to say already.
Is it not done?
Sorry, yeah, thank you.
Duncan's
As I said, I think, if Shrewsbury Town
Can I
Council.
just stop you there? I just had my hand tapped, so I got it wrong. I should have brought Duncan back in before you, whereas I was going to bring you in before Duncan. I got it procedurally incorrect. Duncan.
Right. I think actual photos sent through by Councillor Dartnell make the point very eloquently. This is about the small, intricate scale of actually planning where we are the Highways Authority changes. I think the Big Town Plan is a strategic organisation. It's looking as it needs to do for the future and the macro stuff, but we need effective control to make sure that in doing that, decisions that affect the environment around the town centre and the suburbs of Shrewsbury are made properly and are subject to appropriate scrutiny. And I think you've got the clear evidence there that this group is needed.
Thank you. Right, I promise not to interrupt unless you run out of time.
Right, thank you. I'll not take long. I think, as I said earlier, the group already exists. However, if Shrewsbury Town Councils want to form their own group within to feed into the Shrewsbury Big Town Plan through their members who are already on that partnership, I think that's absolutely fine. But I think this is good for what it is. I see what Councillor Dartnell has put forward there. I mean, all these projects should be consulted with or should be consulted on by local members as well. So that's something that maybe needs to be completely highlighted in addition. But as I said, the route to the plan, without overcomplicating, is the Shrewsbury Big Town Plan. We are our partnership. We have got extensive members on that. It is cross-party, and I think it is represented by Shrewsbury Town councillors who are also Shropshire councillors, and I think the conduit is there to influence if Shrewsbury Town councillors want to do so. So I will be supporting the amendment. Thank you.
So you're not supporting the amendment, right? Okay. So we have an amendment that has been tabled by Councillor Julian Dean and seconded by Duncan Kerr. That amendment is that a 3.3 should be added to set up a local group of councillors to take an overview. Is that correct, Julian? All right, as consultees. So all those in favour of supporting that amendment, please show. And all of those against that amendment, please show.
27 for 39 against.
27 for and 39 against. So the amendment has fallen. So we will move back to the original item, which is remaining as the substantive. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. I really welcome this report. It's been a long time coming, and I hope it doesn't take as long to be delivered in the town. I became involved in local politics because I asked the then leader of Shropshire Council to consider creating such a plan when my now 8-year-old son was 3. He didn't agree with me. In the last 10 years, overall traffic volumes have increased by 25% and are likely to do so in the next 10 years as well. As a council, we need to particularly address short journeys. 40% of journeys by car are less than 2 miles. This proposal should go a long way to helping to address that. I welcome the announcements from the new government on buses and the way forwards for public transport. However, without bus priority measures, such as those contained in this plan, the government is likely to be disappointed by the results. Franchising in isolation is not a panacea. With this plan, Shrewsbury can be a blueprint for towns across the UK in the same way as the original 1970 circulation plan in Groningen provided the blueprint for towns and cities across the Netherlands. When this went through Cabinet, the leader of the council paused after the vote to mark the moment. She called it momentous. I agree, and she deserves credit for her bold, ambitious leadership in this area. I'm especially pleased that Shropshire has not yet succumbed to the culture wars evident elsewhere, and at present there is cross-party consensus on this approach. Long may it continue. I am, however, concerned about the next steps. Where is the funding for the next phase of work to turn this delivery plan into a delivery plan and then to deliver and implement? It needs tying together with other policy and strategy: parking, park and ride, planning, schools, colleges, air quality, where it was notably missing from a report that went to Cabinet last week. I'm especially concerned whether the whole council is pulling together in the same direction on this. Some of the evidence at present says that it isn't. I'm pleased to see the proposal for Shrewsbury East Parkway Station, but worry about how long this could take to deliver. I would like to see a reopened Badchurch Station referenced. I would like to see consideration given for adding additional decks at Frankwell and Abbey Foregate car parks, with direct access provided via a footbridge towards the bus station and the old, and the old platform 3 access to the old meadow. This would allow people from outside of the town to access the station easily when they come in by car. I would also caution against relying on Raven Meadows as a multi-storey car park or some future replacement. The negative impact of the new Westfield multi-storey in Oxford should provide ample warning from the ghost of Christmas present. It would make a good site for a new bus station. We must consider carefully how all parts of the county will continue to use facilities in town and promote the advantages presented if people within Shrewsbury change how they move. The demand for UK SPF-funded e-bikes shows that there is an appetite there. The portfolio for highways has said, put simply, doing nothing is not an option. For once, I agree. We have a medieval town which wasn't built for private motor vehicles, and there is no more space. No one would have planned for what we have now. We have to use the space that we have more efficiently, and that means walking, cycling, wheeling, and public transport. This plan offers a chance to reset movement in Shrewsbury relatively quickly and relatively cheaply. The closest example is Ghent. In 2017, this medieval Belgian city, about 3 times larger than Shrewsbury, demonstrated it was possible to switch attitudes overnight. The changes were implemented one Sunday evening, and there was, the disappointment of the media, no chaos and no gridlock. Motorists found that while their journeys might have been longer, they took less time because there were fewer fellow travellers on the roads. Motor vehicles used to make up 55% of journeys in Ghent. That number was now 27%. Retailers and restaurants warned of problems, but discovered that takings did not plummet. As we've found in Shrewsbury, the recent findings of Living Streets Pedestrian Pound report highlighted large increases in sales credited to the weekend town centre trial. The Deputy Mayor in Ghent said actually the economic situation has improved, a 17% increase in restaurant and bar startups. The number of empty shops arrested. Ghent has cleaner air. Nitrogen oxide levels dropped 20% between 2017 and 2020. A significant advantage of the Ghent plan over options that may be considered to achieve similar aims is that it is remarkably cheap to implement. It costs them €4 million. We all know the financial issues of this council. We know we must cut our cloth accordingly.
Last 20.
We also know that inaction is not an option. The Shropshire plan has 4 healthies: economy, environment, people and organisation. This plan ticks all 4 boxes, and I hope this council will support it unanimously to show the government we are ready to deliver. Thank you.
Crikey, you must have practiced that a lot because you got it down to the last 2 seconds. And I was sorry to hear at the beginning that your 3-year-old child didn't agree with you.
That could be interpreted that way, but maybe a different way.
Okay. Councillor David Basma.
Thank you, Chair. I very much support the movement and public space strategy. It's incredibly important. It would be very, very useful and make Shrewsbury a key town which people will look to in the future. However, and also I welcome the commitment to improving access for people with disabilities. I have to declare an interest here because my wife has a blue badge. And I would just like to bring the attention of the portfolio holder to the paper which responds to the public consultation, which is entitled "You Said We Did," and particularly on the 3rd page and the 4th item down, there is the response to the "You Said." It was additional details needed on how blue badge parking will be managed throughout the town centre, while also acknowledging that many individuals require prioritised access, even if they do not possess a blue badge. And the response on "We Did" is we will provide priority parking spaces at park and choose sites. I think there should be ride sites on the edge of the town centre. And I think that particular response is quite poor. I think there should be a look at how blue badge parking will be managed. I know there's some concerns amongst people in the disability community, and I think that we could make an improvement there and actually deal with that much more effectively. So I'd like to bring that to the attention of the portfolio holder and hope that he will be able to talk to the consultants about this. I'd also like reference to, of course, that Shrewsbury has won, as mayor, I should say, that Shrewsbury has won the Great Town Award award by the Academy of Urbanism. And I think this shows that the town, if we adopt this strategy, the town can move forward and become an exemplar for the whole of England and Wales. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor Rosemary Dartnell.
Thank you, Chair. We're fully supportive of the Shrewsbury movement and public space strategy, which must be held at the core of all Shrewsbury infrastructure decision making from here on in, assuming this passes today. It's a new era for our wonderful town. It's important to note the strategy is ready to move forward with or without the North West Relief Road. Fund applications must be ready. The BSIP, for example, the Bus Service Improvement Plan, is kept as a live report ready for funding rounds as they come, and hopefully on the nth time of asking, Shropshire will get funds to develop better bus services, giving residents choice. We have active Travel England grants funding several sustainable travel officers who are working to change habits in and around our schools and colleges, and we will no doubt access more funding. And while we rely on these external pots of funding to develop this strategy, the crucial value will be in the sequencing that can be achieved. Without doubt, improved bus services and plans to offer a safe, segregated network of walking and cycling routes across Shrewsbury are the key to its success. Every single improvement has the potential to reduce the number of cars on the road. These cycle and walking networks are scheduled to take place over 8+ years, but we hope this will be front-loaded. The sooner more safe places to cycle, wheel and walk are provided, the sooner some people will choose to use them and then begin to find it easier or cheaper or more fun or more convenient than the first choice of a car journey that is at the moment their only option. So we welcome this strategy and the reinvention of Shrewsbury life it will bring for those who live, work and visit our wonderful town. The strategy will deliver a healthy economy, a healthy environment, a healthy organisation and healthy people. Bring it on.
Thank you, Councillor Kate Halliday.
Thank you, Chair. And I just want to add my congratulations to all the work that's been put into this. It's an excellent report, and I think a real move forward. I just wanted to add to the comments about how important it is to have a sense of urgency in some of these actions. Noticing that the existing pedestrian and cycle upgrade to national standards has an 8-year plus measure, so it would be nice to have that sooner. And I think also I met with the head of highways recently to discuss the fact that I think sometimes there's a bit of catch up in terms of what the highways team themselves are doing, and I was talking specifically about the 90-centimetre cycle lanes that have been reinstated onto Longdon Road. Very pleased to have Longdon Road resurfaced, but those are actually against national policy. So I think that there needs to be some thought into the highways team and not simply replacing like for like, which was what the issue was with that particular cycle lane. However, this is a really good strategy. Really welcome all the work that's gone into it and fully support this.
Okay, Councillor Heather Kidd, and then I'm probably going to draw a bit of a line under it because I think we're all now broadly supportive of it with feeding comments. So
I am supportive of this, and as Rob knows and has added into his piece that he wrote, I'm still concerned that we maintain access to the station from the southwest until we have an alternative. And I do thoroughly support a parkway, but that access to the station so that we don't actually have to put more rubber on the road and use more diesel to go round is a vitally important part of it. I don't want to have to divert to Telford. So I support.
Good.
With that in mind.
Super. And thank you for being honest to your word when you said it was just a short statement. Okay. Councillor Morris, you reserved your right as seconder.
Thank you, Chair. I too fully support this report. I note on page 2.2.6, the strategy is cognizant of the proposed North West Relief Road and the need for such highway infrastructure improvements to remove unnecessary through traffic from the town centre, which aligns with the key principles of the MPSS. Councillor Wilson talks about the city of Ghent and the successes they've had there. I note that the key elements of the circulation plan, so removing through traffic, is an inner ring road enabling car travel from section to section, and the main ring road enabling car travel from municipality to municipality. So I trust that Councillor Wilson will also endorse that. I look on the North West Relief Road site, and I note that we have West Midlands Combined Authority supporting the North West Relief Road, Midlands Connect, Shrewsbury Bid, the Shropshire Chamber of Commerce, and Shrewsbury and Atcham Hospital, Shrewsbury and Telford Hospital Trust.
If we could keep it to the report, that would be useful.
But I do think it's relevant because, you know, if the fire authority and the, support the road, then so should everyone else, and that is all part of this of the movement strategy, taking traffic out of town. Also note that the Prime Minister recently in a Times article was talking about not having blocking of development. So I'll sum up by saying I do fully support this, but I do question why people who have consistently blocked the North West Relief Road and what they know better that the fire authority and Shrewsbury Hospital.
Point of order, Chairman.
No, I'm not going to take it, Roger. I think he's finished anyway. Okay, I'm going to go back to Ian Nellins. Ian.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank everybody for the comments. And it is heartening to find that, and we knew this from back in the consultation period last year, that this was well supported by cross-party groups, both within Shrewsbury and wider Shropshire. So thank you for that. I just remind members that it is a strategy. It's not the operational piece as yet. So and we have said all along, it's flexible. There will be opportunities to make tweaks where possible. David, when you mentioned about the blue badge holders, park and choose includes park and ride. It is park and choose, a number of options, but clearly with fewer cars, with the aim of having fewer cars parking in the town centre, it should be more accessible for disabled drivers to have that ability, or to choose other options as well. But generally, just overall, from all of those comments, it's hard to find that it is supported. I think any of the minor details that can be done, that's how we've got the Shrewsbury Big Town Partnership. Please feed that through, as I said, from town councillors or Shropshire councillors. And let's embrace this opportunity to make Shrewsbury a cleaner area to live in. We know that people have already, as Councillor Wilson said there, we have exceeded the number of people who have applied for the new electric bikes. It shows there is an interest there. We have got issues with the fact that the geography or the buildings that we have, the infrastructure in the town, doesn't allow for private bus lanes, etc., or solitary bus lanes. So that is challenges that we have to overcome. But that's what the plan's doing. It's looking at these challenges so that we can do, like has happened in other towns, not just in other countries, but also in places such as Durham, where similar projects have went into place. So we will learn from others. We will take advice. We will be flexible, and we will make this work. It is over a 10-year plan, and there's a lot to be achieved in that time. Thank you very much.
Okay, so there are just the two recommendations, 3.1 and 3.2. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. All right. We will move on then to the next item, which is the interim polling district, polling place and polling station review of 2024. I'm going to invite Councillor Gwilym Butler as the portfolio holder with responsibility in this area to present the report and move the recommendations. Gwilym.
Thank you, Chairman. As Councillor Gwilym Butler, portfolio holder for Finance, Corporate Resources and Communities. An interim polling district, polling place and polling station review was undertaken to consider the provision of polling places where issues had been raised over their continued suitability. Following the conclusion of the public consultation, today's report includes the electoral registration officer's finding and recommendations to be considered and I hope approved by Council. The review was carried out in accordance with the Representation of the People Act 1983, which requires the Council to ensure that all electors have such reasonable facilities for voting and that all polling stations identified within the report are accessible to electors who are disabled and, where possible, located within their own polling district. Polling arrangements have been assessed and the views of interested groups and individuals were invited. These included electors, political parties, elected members, organisations who case for people with different disabilities, and the returning officer for parliamentary constituencies within North Shropshire, Shrewsbury and South Shropshire. It is planned that any changes resulting from the review will be incorporated into the revised Register of Electors due to be published on the 1st of February 2025. It is understood that the electoral registration officer's proposals are supported by the relevant local members and town and parish councils, and I accordingly move the recommendations as set out in the report. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. And I understand that is being seconded by Councillor Roy Aldcroft. Is that correct?
Yes, and I reserve my right.
Good. Well, hopefully you may not need it, but there you go. Councillor Wilson.
Just very briefly, I want to put on record that in Copthorne, previously St George's School and Woodford Infant School have been used. It's very difficult for parents when schools get close to the day, and that does mean that for Copthorne, a lot of voters are going to have to go to the hospital site, the conference centre. It's not an ideal situation, but I think it's better to keep schools open. So I thank officers for that, but hope we can keep looking for another solution. I don't know what it is, but we really need to find something else because it isn't an ideal situation. But thank you to the officers involved.
Okay, I'm sure your comments are being noted. I have. Good. You reserved your right. Is there anything that you feel you need to say?
No.
That's Roy Allcroft. Was that a no from Roy?
Yes, sorry. Nothing further.
All right. Gwilym?
I note the comments, and I'm sure any councillors in the chamber, if they have difficulty with their polling stations, can work with the elections teams to try and review it. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Well, there are two recommendations, 3.1, which is tabular, and 3.2. All those in favour of supporting those recommendations, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We will move on to now, just so that everybody knows, I'm going to take this item, which I think will take us to about 15:15, and then I'm going to stop because people at the back keep eating all the cakes, and that's not fair on me. But we will stop for 20 minutes at that point, and I think that leaves us enough on the agenda then to have a reasonable short session. So, electoral services and scale of fees. I'm going to invite Gwilym Butler once again to present the report and move that the recommendations be received and agreed. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Gwilym Butler, Portfolio Holder, Finance, Corporate Resources and Communities. This certainly is a day for housekeeping. This is the last report I have myself today. Again, it is just updating the fees for the local elections and any town and parish council elections. And I simply move the recommendations as set out in the report. Thank you.
Okay, and I understand that that is being seconded by Councillor Jeff Elner. Is that correct?
Yes, it is, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to second this report and reserve my rights.
Okay. Councillor Dartnell.
Just a question for Councillor Butler, please. I just wanted to check that all roles are covered in this document, such as table supervisors, zone supervisors, polling station inspectors and runners. They do appear to be missing.
From my perspective, Councillor Dartnell, all the...
Willem, next time do it through the chair, please. I just want to make sure there's nobody else that wants to ask a question before you come back in. There isn't, but your seconder did withhold their right.
I've nothing further to add.
Okay, Willem, now's your moment in the spotlight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the question, Rosemary. To the best of my knowledge, all the fees that are mentioned in this actual paper are the ones that we have to financially cover. If there is any difference, I will bring back I shall put something on the member portal if it's any different.
Okay, good. After much debate, we will move to the vote. There are two recommendations, 3.1 and 3.2. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? That's unanimous. Right, so it's actually 10 past. I misjudged that by quite a long way. Nevertheless, it is my intention now to stop for 20 minutes. It is 10 past. We will resume at 15:30 on the button. Thank you, councillors. Enjoy your cakes and your coffees and whatever facilities you need to use, and see you shortly. give everybody a minute to be seated and then we will get going. Scrutiny. Maybe I'm associated with the report. Right, so we can tend to get going again. Yeah. Okay, members, if we could have some quiet, please. We're going to move on. There. Thank you. That's all right. We will move on then to item 15, which is the response to the government consultation on remote attendance and proxy voting. I'm going to bring in Councillor Leslie Picton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members will be aware that the government sent out a consultation regarding allowing councils at all levels to undertake hybrid and proxy voting. I'm sure that many of us in this chamber actually went along to our town and parish councils to talk to them about it. And I know that many of the, certainly my parish councils anyway, have made their own representations on this consultation. Group leaders also spoke to their own groups, and then we came together to formulate a joint response, which can be found at Appendix 1. And firstly, my profuse apologies, because I spotted earlier that Councillor Rosemary Dartnell, leader of the Labour group, who played a full and active role in our discussions and was very much present at our meetings, has been missed off the list. So I will ask that that amendment be made, Rosemary. I don't intend to take too long over this. So in short, we believe that it is important that in cases of emergencies, meetings can be taken either entirely online or hybrid. This could be anything from a nationally announced pandemic lockdown or perhaps even in our own local terms, extreme weather. You will see from Appendix 1 that whilst allowing hybrid and proxy attendance by members at formally constituted meetings, we agreed that this should only be allowed in exceptional circumstances, and we need to formulate a robust process to assess the emergency, if you get my drift. As a slight aside, and it's not actually part of the consultation but came up in discussions during the consultation discussion, there is a recommendation within Appendix 1 where it was agreed by all group leaders that all future formally constituted meetings where we have non-voting members joining us online or in person, that their attendance is actually noted within the minutes of the meeting, because we all felt that we don't expect members to travel in from great distances if they're just either asking a question or speaking on a particular item, say at cabinet, but that their attendance should be noted. So I don't intend to take any more of your time. I think what I would say to you is that I always think debate is far better when everybody's in the room. And for certainly in terms of our parish and town councils, I think the response from them, or at least my own, was very much that one size doesn't fit all. Whereas some of our, and we all know who they are, some of our town and parish councils are very capable of hosting hybrid or online meetings. In the case of one of mine, they can't even get a mobile signal, let alone anything else. So quite happy to propose the recommendation found at 3.1. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Claire, I believe you're seconding that.
And reserve my right. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, looking around the room, I see no indications. Claire, was there something you particularly wanted to say, or?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Leslie, is there anything you want to add?
No, thank you.
And we will move to the vote. There's only the one recommendation, that the council approves the response to the consultation attached at Appendix 1. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Abstentions? Is that an abstention, Ted? All right, 2 abstentions. All right. Okay, thank you very much. We will move on to item 16, which is the constitution of committees and allocation of seats. I believe An update was circulated yesterday, and the report and recommendations of the Assistant Director of Legal and Governance be received and agreed. Got a second one there, but I haven't got a proposal.
Mr. Chair, I have to propose an amendment, I think, to the original report that was listed on the agenda.
Not very clear, but
Sorry.
there we go. No, that's all right.
My fault. So if you wouldn't mind, indulge me, Mr. Chairman, after a good and robust discussion, we have agreed as group leaders on the allocation of seats and the make-up committees going forward. It is different to the one that was originally circulated with the agenda, but the updated version was sent round yesterday. I do have to just make one tiny amendment to it. Don't panic, group leaders. In paragraph 2.7, we have correctly apportioned the membership of the Fire Authority 1 Labour seat, but unfortunately in the recommendation 3.2, we have said that there are 2 Labour seats, which is incorrect. So I formally request that that recommendation is changed. Other than that, I'm happy to propose it as it is, and in doing so, would thank the group leaders for the way in which this was determined and discussed. Thank you.
Okay. Roger, I believe you're seconding this. Heather, you are. All right, Heather. Sorry, I could hear her, so it's a bit selfish of me, I know, but I hadn't noticed.
Not sure that I need to reserve my right, but the reason for seconding this is that we did all agree, and because it gives a fair apportionment across the system, and it is not based on personnel.
Thank you, Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chairman. I speak with my other hat on as Chairman of the Audit Committee. I was extremely concerned and saddened that due to the reduction in membership of the Audit Committee, Councillor Nigel Lumby has had to stand down. He's been an extremely important and very valuable member of the Audit Committee for the whole of this council, and I have sought assurance and have received that assurance that he can now be changed to a substitute member without the matter having to come back to this council or a confirmation. So I simply wanted to publicise the fact that these changes mean that in some cases valuable councillors have had to come off committees which they have served well for so very long. Thank you.
Thank you. No other hands? Heather, you reserved your right.
I didn't really, but actually the point is that we do have valuable councillors on all of these things, but it has to be an allocation around the seats, not the people.
Yep. Okay. Leslie?
No, I have nothing further to add, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Okay, we will move on to item 17, which are the notices of motion, which will have been received in accordance with Procedure Rule 16. I believe there are only 2. The first one has been received from Councillor Duncan Kerr and is supported by the Green Group. I think there's only 2 of you today, so that's more of a green duo. Councillor Kerr.
Yes, sorry. Thank you, Chairman. It's a very succinct motion. I don't intend to speak long to it. I mean, I hope that I can get unanimous support. Probably the longer I speak, the less likely that is. So I just
You're learning. You're learning.
I'm learning, yes. So obviously, Alcester's got the only post office in the county, which is directly managed by the post office. It is on a list of planned risk of closure. They've sort of backpedaled a little bit about what that means. Clearly, their preference would be for a franchise operation. They've tried to do that in the past. There's been no one come forward. We are trying to establish whether an outlet in Alcester, there is one other sub postmaster in Alcester, it requires under they have an obligation to provide public service, whether that would protect the main office in Oswestry. But I think now is the time for the council to stand alongside those people, particularly people protected under the Equalities Act, who rely upon the post office for the services it provides, and to call upon the MP for North Shropshire to express in the strongest terms the opposition to any closure.
Thank you. And Councillor Pitson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I don't intend to speak for long, but what I would say is that the Conservative group fully support this motion. But what I would perhaps, and I'm not asking for an amendment, but I think where Oswestry is currently in the firing line, let's not be fooled into thinking that other areas in our county might not follow. I would also ask perhaps that we approach all of our MPs to actually write in the strongest possible terms, because other people from other areas use Oswestry Post Office. And as I said, Conservative group will be supporting this motion. Thank you very much.
If that's an amendment, I'm happy to accept it, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Alex Wagner.
Yeah, so I just thought, for the record, obviously the Lib Dem group will be fully supporting this. I know Helen's petition has been ongoing already. I just also wanted to add, I know people of all parties and none in Oswestry and beyond have signed it, and I think it's a good example of cross-party working done well. So obviously we're very happy to have our names alongside and the other groups on this issue.
Good. And there's me thinking that's what the vote's for. But anyway, there we go. Okay. Councillor Joyce Barrow.
Thank you. I support this motion entirely, but what I do want to make people aware of is some villages, mine for example, Trevonin, has its own post office which provides nearly all the services. And I just think it's important that we all stay alert to any closures of any village post offices, because they are a lifeline. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's reasonable. Oh, Heather.
Just to add to that, outreach post offices, which are greatly valued, we've already lost a lot of outreach village services. So I really would like the council to be completely cognizant of that and make sure that we as a council object to these small villages who have a post office service one morning, lunchtime, whatever, because they are vital services for many people.
All right. So I think we're pretty well much encompassing all rural post offices, particularly in Shropshire. Okay, good. There are no amendments. Duncan, do you want to say anything?
You haven't had a seconder yet, have you?
Well, there's only two of you, so I
don't
think
mind. to ask. Yeah, I haven't got nothing to sum up. Everybody seems to be supportive. I'm happy to proceed to the vote, but I just think somebody needs to second it for the record.
Okay. Well, formally seconded by the other one of the duo. And did you want to reserve your right, or?
Go on, just be a devil.
Okay, so to ensure we're home by Christmas, let's move to the vote. All those in favour of supporting this motion, please show. I'm very sure it's going to be unanimous. Any against? Any abstentions? And it was indeed unanimous. And I do apologise, Councillor Dean, for taking the sun away for your moment in its shine. Okay, so we will move on to the second motion then, which is from Councillor Andy Poddington and is supported by Councillors Richard Huffer, Tracy Huffer and Rob Wilson. I have to say, when I read this, I thought I've seen that one before, but no, there you go. Councillor Andy Poddington.
Thank you, Chair. The character of our county is defined by farming, particularly small farms. Farming is at the heart of rural communities. It sculpts the landscapes that surrounds our towns and villages. Farming underpins our thriving local food industry. Shropshire wouldn't be Shropshire without farming, especially without smaller family farms. Farming is under pressure from many directions at once. The UK's departure from the EU and the trade barriers and labour shortages that has brought. International trade agreements that favour large-scale food producers overseas. The difficulty in managing the sustainable transition from CAP to the UK's public money for public goods approach. That, for example, has led to a cut in basic payments of 76% in a single year. And of course, we have the soaring costs of fertilisers and other costs. The largest farms are better resourced to weather these shocks. For the smaller farms, and we've got a lot of them in Shropshire, this is proving a difficult transition. In the last 5 years alone, livestock farm and incomes have dropped by 41%.
Many farmers do not now earn the minimum wage. The government planned changes to inheritance tax are all thought through and are based on outdated data and a misrepresentation of the total impact of the tax changes. To begin with the outdated data, the Treasury says that only 25% of farms will be affected based on 2020-21 inheritance bills. But farmland prices have increased substantially in the last 4 years, and they're still increasing. The total impact of inheritance tax is greater than the government stated, because agricultural property relief is going to be combined with business property relief. Given the costs of some tractors that were protesting here in Shrewsbury yesterday, or the cost of a combine harvester and other specialist equipment, 1 million is easily reached. The 1 million cap for inheritance tax is too low. It was introduced without an impact assessment, without consultation with farmers. The argument we're making is not that farmers shouldn't face tax like everyone else, but that the tax needs to be better targeting. Hitting the large farms owned by businesses and high wealth individuals, often for the purpose of tax avoidance, and not hitting family farms. And if the government needs tax, and it does, then increasing capital gains tax, because farmland goes up 10 to 100-fold increase in price when it's granted planning permission. And as we're hearing from the government, a lot of farmland is going to be used for housing. Although ministers claim only a quarter of farms will be affected by inheritance tax, the detailed analysis by the NFU shows that 3/4 of farms will be affected. And small farmers are capital rich and income poor. There are 10 years to pay an inheritance tax bill, but repayments will often be above a farm's profits. The largest farms have made a 2% return on assets in the last 5 years. We're not suggesting that these farms actually get 100% inheritance tax relief. But as farm size shrinks, the return on assets decreases. It's around 0.5% for medium farms, diminishing to 0 for small farms. There's a real danger that this specific measure will lead to the end of family farming as we know it. Death tax could become a death of family farming tax. At this stage, the government may not be for turning on inheritance tax. However, by agreeing this motion today, we send a message that this council supports farmers in Shropshire, especially those on small farms. The requests in the motion are modest, that the leader writes to ministers calling for a review of the inheritance tax proposals, that the leader writes to MPs urging them to lobby ministers for a change in the way tax is raised from farms. I commend the motion to councillors.
Thank you very much. Okay, I have got, are you seconding, Tracy? Right, I reserve your right. So I've therefore then got Richard Tyndall and then Tracy Huffer, then Gwilym Blimey, and then the rest of the council. Okay, keep your hands up until I give you a nod. Yes, you were called first. You may go, not leave, but start.
For once, I'm going to speak about something I should know a little bit about, having spent 53 years in rural estate management. I would like to put just a tiny bit of flesh on what Councillor Boddington has very well expressed, is that if you take a very modest family-occupied farm, family-owned, owner-occupied farm of 100 acres, and if you take, again, a very modest capital value of £10,000 an acre, you've got to your £1 million straight away. If you've got a small dairy herd of 100 cows, they are worth
£1,750 for a decent milking cow, possibly more if it's a good pedigree. A lot of them are closed herds, of course, so they haven't been tested at market. Then you've got all the working capital, as Andy has mentioned, fertiliser, grain, tractors. You could soon, on a very modest family-owned farm, mount up to £2-3 million. And then you've got the problem of farmers who perhaps don't have children or are unmarried. They are not going to be able to make use of the inter vivo spouse exemptions or being able to pass parts of the farm to other members of the family. That £1 million threshold is going to hit a lot of smaller farms, and the damage it will do to the social fabric of counties like Shropshire will be immense. And please don't forget that us, the nation, is trying to feed ourselves, and it might become more and more necessary as the world goes odder and odder that we feed ourselves better. So I would urge council to support this motion, regardless of their political affiliation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Right. I have now got Councillor Tracy Huffer, Councillor Gwyneth Butler, Anne Morris, Claire Wild. If your name's not on there, then put your hand up again, because everyone put their hands up together and it's incredibly important to see everybody at the same time and write them down. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think I probably should declare that we are actually farming. So I'm married to a farmer, though the farm is, I don't own any of the farm, but I don't like them. But I work on it anyway. So just for noting, please. Okay. So I speak to address a matter of grave concern that threatens the very fabric of our rural communities in Shropshire and beyond. The proposed changes to inheritance tax policy are not merely financial adjustments. They represent an existential threat to farming at its most vulnerable moment. Our farming sector stands at a precarious crossroads. The post-Brexit agricultural transition has already stripped away vital direct support payments that enabled farmers to provide affordable food to our nation. While farmers were promised a smooth transition to environmental payment schemes, the reality has been anything but. These schemes have been mired in bureaucratic chaos, plagued by delays, and still work to make them fit for purpose. At this critical juncture, the suspension of capital grants by this government recently has dealt another blow. These grants were not mere handouts, they were essential investments into farm modernisation and sustainability. When it comes to the inheritance tax proposals, the government's assessment of affected farms is woefully inadequate. Even with the suggested 3 million theoretical threshold, assuming the perfect scenario of a farming couple with two children, the luxury of surviving the 7-year period, many farms will still exceed this limit when accounting for land, machinery, livestock and essential equipment. There are many misconceptions about farmers' wealth, with some thinking that farmers can afford this tax burden. Let me dispel these myths. The average return on capital assets is a mere 1%. Some farmers themselves are living on the poverty line while working 7 days a week to feed our nation. These are not wealthy landowners who will be affected. These are hard-working families struggling to preserve their heritage and maintain our food security. If this policy proceeds, we face an irreversible transformation of our countryside. We will witness forced land sales with corporate entities swooping in to acquire our agricultural heritage. The social consequences will be devastating. The disillusion of rural communities that have been stewarded by family farms for generations. The mental health implications of this policy cannot be overstated. Our farming communities are already experiencing unprecedented levels of stress and isolation. This is particularly high in Shropshire. Mental health issues in farming have reached crisis levels, with it reported that 3 farmers take their life every single week in the UK. This additional pressure, the threat of losing land that has been in families for generations, could push many over the edge. The government's failure to conduct a thorough impact assessment is nothing short of negligent. They have not only miscalculated the numbers, but have failed to consider the human cost, the mental health crisis this will exacerbate, the family breakdowns it will cause, and the rural communities it will destroy, as well as the obvious food security. A country that cannot feed itself is failing. We must demand a comprehensive review of this policy. The stakes are too high for hasty decisions. This is not just about tax, it's about preserving our rural heritage, protecting our food security, and preventing a mental health catastrophe in our farming communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gullen-Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a portfolio holder for communities, I feel it is essential that I speak to this. The whole backbone of Shropshire Council is based on a rural economy and a rural countryside. And I'd ask you one question. Why is Shropshire made up of 18 market towns? Why are they called market towns? Because they were based on livestock markets. And as Tracy has said, that is our history and that is our heritage. And like Shrewsbury, where the market was the centre of the economy years ago in the towns, and I believe in Shrewsbury it was on the riverside until Halls moved it out, similar in Ludlow and other places. It is essential that we as a council stand united in actually standing up for the whole ethos of the rural environment. And to that end, Chairman, I would like to request a recorded vote. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that looks like everybody, but anyway, we haven't actually got to the vote yet, but no, a recorded vote will be taken. Thank you. Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Chair. A lot of stuff that I was going to say has already been said, so I'm not going to repeat it. My own personal circumstance, my parents are 81 and 78. The particular cruelty of this particular bill is the tapered relief. Because up until now, farmers have been told and planned by their specialist, it's okay to leave your land and business until you die. At 81 and 78, statistically, although I hope that doesn't happen, it is likely that my parents won't be around. And if we now think that we've got to plan now and hand the land over to myself and potentially my children, and then they die within 7 years, we get hit particularly hard by this cruel and ideologically driven policy. I fully support the motion by the Liberal Democrats and thank them for bringing it. And I sincerely hope the whole council votes and supports the motion.
Councillor Farewell. Yeah, that's you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not sure I did indicate, but I will speak.
I think when you put your hand up, which you did, I thought that was an indication to speak, unless you were just stretching. But I can't know from here.
No, okay.
When you're way back there.
So I just feel so sorry for all the farmers out there, you know, because the local farmers do so much more than just farm. You know, when you're, you know, down our particular lane, the farmer always used to brush the road if it was dirty. If there was a drain blocked, he'd unblock it. What's going to happen is you're going to get agribusinesses who don't care about the community. These families are going to be isolated and left to rot, basically. And it is just so cruel. I can't say any more because I'll probably say something I shouldn't. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillors Motley, Dean, and then, Councillors Motley and Dean.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm speaking as a member of this council with a totally rural division. I have no towns in my division. I only have settlements. Agriculture is the absolute lifeblood of the Corvedale division. And it is absolutely, to me, completely extraordinary that there seemed to be a complete lack of any real research into the position of the farming community before this disastrous measure in the budget was introduced. Because if the Chancellor had bothered to look at the way that farmers are living at the moment, I don't think even she, ideologically driven though she may be, would have visited this upon a part of the community that is really suffering already. I have had suicides of young farmers in my division. It is absolutely heartbreaking, and the reason for that is because they just cannot tot up the figures. They just cannot see how they can go on. The Chancellor may have thought that she was hitting the filthy rich landowners. She's done exactly the opposite. She's gone for the small farmers, and it is absolutely the most unfair piece of legislation that I think I've ever come across in my time on this council. So please, will everybody just vote against the removal of the APR?
Oh, thank you. We do have other councillors. Councillor Dean.
Thank you very much. In previous meetings, I've called out the Conservative group for sitting on their hands when there's something uncomfortable. And so it's only consistent with me to call out the Labour group, who seem to be sitting on their hands in this motion. I haven't seen that anybody's indicating. I think we really ought to hear from them as councillors in Shropshire. That's my first point. My second point, though, is clearly something needed to be done. We can't allow people like Jeremy Clarkson to swoop in and buy larger amounts of land in order to avoid tax. And so there was a need to do something, but it also seems pretty clear that Rachel Reeves has got it wrong on this occasion, which leads to the next point, which is, as the Green Party has been saying all along, should have done a wealth tax. There was a very straightforward way in which they could have raised the money that was needed to deal with the public service disaster that we faced because of the previous Conservative government. But Labour ducked that and so have had to play games with all sorts of taxes, not least the national insurance contribution increases, which are going to hit social care so badly and other parts of the third sector. The final point is just that, yes, we absolutely do need to keep farmers and landowners on side in terms of environmental improvement to the land, both to protect nature, but also actually to protect the future of farming and the health of our soils, which are rapidly deteriorating, and in order to bring about proper flood management. In a recent scrutiny meeting, it was very interesting the number of schemes and strategies and ideas that are out there for natural flood management, all of which in the end is dependent on landowners and land managers being on board and being supported and being funded to bring those about. So a policy which has clearly alienated rural communities and farmers is a bit of a disaster in that situation. And finally, of course, we need them on board if we're going to improve the health of our rivers. Many of us will have seen the Panorama show on Monday, where it was quite clear that it's not just the water companies, bad as they are, it is also a problem with farming pollution, and we need to address that as well. All of which means that there needs to be a rebuilding of a relationship with the rural communities if we're to make progress.
Okay. Councillor Kidd, who has assured me that it's just going to be a wee nibbling.
I'm always brief. Sorry. Thank you, Chairman. What I would also like to say is that nobody has really looked at how that income on a small local family farm actually feeds into rural services, my shops and all those other things, and the rural schools. Once we lose those families off those farms, and we are increasingly seeing land being sold anyway and being planted with trees, not for food production, just as a carbon sink. It's those things that should have been being hit so that we keep the families. My division is pretty rural, as you will know. The biggest village is all of 150 houses. And it's those farmers and those the rest of the community which are actually employed on those farms and feeding money into our rural communities that are important. So all of this will hit that. A big landowner tends not to have all of that, and they bring in contractors which do not necessarily feed those rural services. Full stop.
Thank you. All right. Well, just before I come back, very unusually, I'm going to say a few words on this. For those of you that don't know, I went to agricultural college. I didn't follow the family military service line, and I went to agricultural college, and I was a farm manager for 16 years. I then decided, or we decided, my wife and I, when we had children, that I would, instead of rearing other people's stock, just rear my own, because it was a lot cheaper than having a nanny going. I accept that all of the members in this room are probably not happy with this, and I do include the Labour group in that, because the decisions made in Westminster, as we found out as a Conservative group, don't always deserve to have your toes held up in front of the fire to be toasted. But that said, we still had our feet held to the fire and were toasted. This is just wrong. It's plain and simple wrong. Some of these families have been there for generations. They are rooted in the communities. They are indeed the community roots. And I'm going to completely support this. This needs to be reconsidered and re-looked at, because our family farms are the heart of our communities, and it's just wrong. Okay. On that, I will go back to the original seconder. Richard, there you are.
Thank you, Chair. We fought successive governments over legislation, both sides, Labour and Conservatives. We always fight the weather. We invariably fight DEFRA. We will take on government to overturn this poor legislation. It's probably taken several generations for any farm to get to this point, with a lot of sacrifice, but always on the proviso that it's handed to the next generation. Not to cash, not to trash, but in the firm knowledge that it will hand on to the next generation unless circumstances of health dictate otherwise. This motion is not here to protect Jeremy Clarkson or Dyson or any other large landowner, however they've come by it, for tax purposes or for large estates that have taken farms back in hand because it suits them for tax purposes. They can call themselves farmers, and for tax avoidance. This is about protecting the family farm. I can't distinguish between a 250 acre holding, I guess I call it as a holding in this day and age, medium-sized farm or large farm. So long as they farm it well, produce food, I can't distinguish between that. All I can say is this is going to put so many businesses on the back foot. Farmers, this doesn't take into account the size of borrowings that a lot of farmers have for numerous reasons, because they try to expand their businesses, because they've had to buy a family member out, go through an expensive divorce settlement, because their partner's wives can't hack it because of the continual pressure, foregoing holidays, family time, etc. This doesn't take into account the numerous circumstances that farmers go through. They will work for little or nothing. They always probably have done. They're handling large sums of money, but it's always on the proviso that it goes to the next generation. It's hard enough to encourage successive generations into the industry at this point in time, because they've seen what their parents have done, but you breed the next the next generation. The amount of capital that you need to start up in farming is beyond the reach of anybody or any new entrants into the industry. So this is just one more nail in the coffin to turn them the other way. They will take it on, and they will work it. They will produce the food that this country is needed. We can't rely on imported food. That's a dangerous place to be, especially at this present time. So I urge all members of this chamber, left, right, to apply pressure where they can, to lobby their MPs. Maybe the images of shiny tractors in London yesterday, there was a few when I was down in London on the 19th, doesn't portray the right image. Go into your local market, there, Market Drayton, Ludlow, Shrewsbury, Bishop's Castle.
Last 30 seconds.
And look at the amount of not polished tractors that are held together often by string. Haven't seen any water in a long time because time does not allow it. Go and sit in the local market, hear what's to be said, and then make your voice known in terms of lobbying. So I urge this chamber to support this motion and send a clear message to this government. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think this one might be going through, but we'll see. Councillor Andy Boddington.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think I need to add any more to what's been said already, other than just on behalf of Councillor Huffer to declare that he is a farmer, which he didn't mention, although I think it's obvious. But I think we should proceed to the vote.
Yeah, I did take some quick advice from Tim, and this is a motion about sending a letter to the government, not about selling his farm or building an estate next door to it or even on it. So I think you're pretty well much all right. That's a good summary, you think? All right, excellent. Okay, so in which case we will move to the vote. All of those who are in favour, and it's a recorded vote. I apologise, it was such a long time ago. Chief Executive.
Roy Allcroft.
For.
Caroline Bagnall.
Abstain.
Please. Okay, Caroline, thank you. Let's not go through cheers and everything else. Let's let Andy do his job, please. Thank you.
Nicholas Bardsley. Joyce Barrow. Bernie Bentinck. Thomas Biggins. Edward Bird. 4. Andy Boddington.
4.
Peter Broomhall.
4.
Gary Birchett.
4.
Willem Butler.
4.
Dean Carroll.
4.
Steve Charmley. Ted Clark.
4.
Rachel Connolly. Gerald Dakin. Rosemary Dartnell.
Abstain.
Steve Davenport. Mary Davies.
4.
Julian Dean.
4.
Jeff Elner.
4.
David Evans.
4.
Roger Evans.
4.
Paul Gill.
4.
Rob Gittins.
4.
Nat Green.
4.
Kate Halliday. Simon Harris.
4.
Nigel Hartin.
4.
Nick Hignett.
4.
Ruth Houghton.
4.
Richard Huffer. Tracy Huffer. Vince Hunt.
4.
Kirsty Hurst Knight. Mark Jones.
4.
Simon Jones.
4.
Duncan Kerr.
4.
Heather Kidd.
4.
Christian Lee.
4.
Hilary Luff. Nigel Lumby.
4.
Robert Macy.
4.
David Minery.
4.
Dan Morris.
4.
Pam Mosley.
Abstain.
Cecilia Motley. Peggy Mullock. Ian Nellings.
4.
Viv Parry. Tony Parsons,
Abstain.
Leslie Picton,
For.
Ed Potter,
For.
John Price, Chris Schofield,
For.
Andrew Sherrington, Colin Taylor,
For.
Dan Thomas,
For.
Robert Tyndall,
For.
Edward Towers,
For.
Kevin Turley, David Vasmer,
For.
Alex Wagner,
For.
Claire Wild,
For.
Brian Williams,
For.
Mark Williams,
For.
Rob Wilson,
For.
Paul Wynne.
For.
Thank you.
Yep, I think read out the numbers. That's what we normally do. So
Yes, 58-6.
no, 58 support the motion and 6 have abstained. Abstained. It'll be in the There we go. Okay. Thank you, councillors. So we will now move on to item 18, which is the exclusion of the public and press. I will move that in accordance with the provisions of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act of 1972, paragraph 10.43 of the Council's access to information rules, the public and press to be excluded from the remainder of the meeting for the consideration of the following items.
I second that exclusion.
Good.
You've got room to go for the chief officer.
Yes, and
Mind,
yeah, no, I don't mind. You can go.
but no, after the minute, would you mind
All right.
mentioning the covenant again,
The
signing of the covenant?
yes, no,